The sun has begun its slow, inevitable descent over the western hills of the city. It is not yet night, but the day has finished its work. The intense bright heat of the Roman afternoon has softened, melting away into a gentle golden haze that hangs suspended over the tiled rooftops. In this quiet hour, the city breathes out. The noise of the market squares, the shouting of the merchants, the rattle of heavy cart wheels, it has all faded into a distant, rhythmic hum. It is a sound that does not demand your attention. It is merely the background noise of history, steady and unchanging. You are here in a quiet room in a quiet year of the empire. There is no need to worry about the date or the name of the emperor. Those things belong to the noisy world of the day. Here in the evening, there is only the light and the stone. You can let your mind drift. You can let your shoulders drop. There is nothing you need to learn here. There is only the slow passage of time, moving like a shadow across the floor. In a modest apartment on the second floor of a brick insula, a woman named Aelia sits by the window. She is alone. This is not a lonely solitude, but a peaceful one. Her husband, a soldier of the Legion, is away. He is stationed at a border far from here, perhaps guarding a wall or watching a river. But we do not need to think of him now. He is safe. He is distant. His absence has created a space of absolute silence in this room, a vacuum of quiet that Aelia inhabits with a practiced ease. She sits on a simple wooden stool, her hands resting in her lap. The stool is made of oak, polished smooth by years of use. It feels solid beneath her. She is not moving. She is simply watching the light change on the wall opposite her. The wall is plastered in a pale, creamy white, and as the sun dips lower outside, a rectangle of orange light stretches across the plaster. It is a slow, geometric show. Aelia watches the edge of the light. It moves imperceptibly. If you stare at it, it seems frozen. But if you look away for a moment and look back, the light has shifted. It is creeping toward the corner of the room, turning from bright gold to a deep, dusty amber. The air in the room is still warm, holding the memory of the day. It smells faintly of dry dust, of the rosemary growing in a pot on the windowsill, and of the old timber beams that support the ceiling above. It is a dry, comfortable warmth. Aelia breathes it in slowly. In and out, there is no rush. The evening meal does not need to be cooked yet. The lamps do not need to be lit yet. There is a suspended moment between the day and the night, and she is resting in the center of it. Outside the window, the sky is turning a pale, washed-out blue. There are no clouds, just a vast, empty expanse of color that is slowly darkening. Aelia leans her head against the wooden frame of the window. The wood is cool against her cheek. She looks down into the street below. The street is narrow, paved with gray stones that have been worn smooth by thousands of sandals. At this hour, the traffic has thinned. A single figure walks by, a man in a tunic carrying a basket. He walks slowly, his sandals making a soft slap-slap sound against the stones. Aelia watches him until he turns a corner and disappears. Then, the street is empty again. A cat, patchy orange and white, sits on a wall opposite Aelia's window. It is grooming itself. Aelia watches the cat. It licks its paw, then rubs it over its ear. It repeats the motion. Lick, rub, lick, rub. It is a hypnotic, repetitive action. The cat stops, looks up at the sky, and then settles down, tucking its paws underneath its chest. It closes its eyes. It, too, is waiting for the night. Aelia turns her gaze back into the room. The rectangle of light on the wall has narrowed. It is fading now, losing its orange intensity and becoming a soft, bruised purple. The shadows in the corners of the room are growing. They are lengthening, stretching out from under the bed, from under the table, reaching toward the center of the floor. The room is sparsely furnished. There is the bed, covered in a plain wool blanket dyed a dull red. There is a small table with a clay pitcher and a cup. There is a wooden chest at the foot of the bed where the linens are stored, and there is a small niche in the wall, the lararium, where tiny figurines of the household gods stand. They are small, silent statues of bronze and clay. They watch the room with unblinking eyes. They are waiting too. Aelia stands up slowly. Her movement is fluid and quiet. Her long tunic made of unbleached linen rustles softly around her ankles. Swish, swish. It is a gentle sound, like dry leaves blowing across a path. She walks to the table. She picks up the clay pitcher. It is cool to the touch. The clay is rough, unglazed, sweating slightly in the warmth. She pours a small amount of water into the cup. The sound of the water pouring is the loudest thing in the universe right now. Gurgle, splash, she stops pouring. She lifts the cup to her lips. The water is tepid, tasting faintly of the clay and the earth. She drinks. She lowers the cup. She places it back on the table. Click, a soft sound of pottery on wood. She walks to the chest at the foot of the bed. She runs her hand over the lid. The wood is grainier here. She can feel the ridges of the timber. She opens the chest. The hinges give a low, long creak. Kriak. It is not a harsh sound, but a tired one. Inside, there are folded tunics, sheets, and towels. The smell of lavender rises from the chest. Dried lavender flowers, tied in small bundles, have been placed between the layers of fabric to keep the moths away. Aelia does not need to take anything out. She is just checking. She reaches in and smooths the top layer of linen with her hand. She irons out a small wrinkle with her palm, back and forth, smoothing the cloth. It feels cool and dry. She finds this motion soothing, smoothing the chaos of the world into a flat, organized surface. She closes the chest. Thump, a dull, final sound. She returns to her stool by the window. The light has changed again. The sun has fully set below the horizon now. The sky is losing its blue and turning into a deep, velvety gray. This is the twilight, the crepusculum, the time of uncertain light. Aelia picks up a piece of fabric from a basket next to her stool. It is a piece of wool she has been spinning. She holds the spindle in her hand. It is weighted with a small clay whorl. She gives it a little twist. It spins. Whirr. A silent spinning top. She draws out the wool fiber. Her fingers know what to do without her looking. Pinch, pull, twist. Pinch, pull, twist. It is a rhythm that connects her to every woman in the empire, to every woman who has ever sat by a window as the light fails. There is no urgency to finish the thread. If she stops now, it does not matter. If she continues for an hour, it does not matter. The thread grows slowly, inch by inch, winding onto the spindle. She watches the dust motes dancing in the last of the light. They float in the air, suspended, moving in slow, invisible currents. They look like tiny stars. Aelia wonders where the dust comes from. From the street, from the bricks, from the wool. It is the dust of Rome. It settles on everything. It settles on the windowsill. It settles on the floor. Tomorrow she will sweep it away, but tonight she lets it settle. The silence in the room deepens. It feels heavy, like a soft blanket draped over the furniture. Aelia stops spinning. She rests her hands in her lap again. She listens. Far away, very far away, she hears a dog bark. Just once, woof, then silence. She hears the sound of a shutter being closed in a neighbor's house. Clack, she hears the wind picking up slightly, rustling the dry leaves of a vine that climbs the wall outside. SHHH, SHHH. These sounds do not break the silence, they only emphasize it. They are small islands of sound in a vast ocean of quiet. Aelia feels her heartbeat slowing down. Thump, thump, thump. It matches the rhythm of the fading day. The room is getting darker. The corners are now lost in shadow. The lararium is just a dark niche in the wall. The bed is a dark shape. Only the window is a square of lighter gray. Aelia knows she should light the lamp soon, but she delays. She enjoys the transition. She wants to see how dark it can get before she needs the fire. She thinks about the oil lamp. It is sitting on a small shelf near the door. It is a simple terracotta lamp shaped like a teardrop. It has a small handle and a spout for the wick. She knows exactly how much oil is in it. She filled it this morning. The oil is green and thick. The wick is flax. She imagines the act of lighting it, striking the flint, the spark, the catch of the flame, the smell of the smoke, the sudden warm glow, but not yet. For now, the gray light is enough. It is soft on her eyes. It blurs the edges of the room. It makes the world feel smaller, softer. Aelia closes her eyes for a moment. She breathes in the cooling air coming through the window. The heat of the day is lifting. A cool breeze touches her forehead. It feels like a cool hand resting on her skin. It brushes a loose strand of hair away from her face. She does not move to fix it. She lets the wind do what it wants. She thinks of nothing, or she thinks of everything, but the thoughts are slow and slippery. They slide through her mind like water. She thinks of the water in the pitcher. She thinks of the wool in the basket. She thinks of the stone in the street. She thinks of the cat on the wall. There is no narrative, no story, just objects and existence. You can rest here with Aelia. You do not need to know her past. You do not need to know her future. She is just a figure in the dusk, a silhouette against the gray sky. She is safe. The doors are locked. The city is calm. The empire is at peace, at least in this street, in this room, in this hour. She opens her eyes. The room is almost dark now. The rectangle of light on the wall is gone. The wall is just a flat, gray surface. It is time. Aelia stands up. Her joints click softly. She walks to the shelf. She feels for the lamp in the darkness. Her fingers find the cool clay handle. She picks it up. She carries it to the table. She finds the flint and steel. She strikes them. Click, a spark. It dies. She strikes again. Click, another spark. This one lands on the tinder, a tiny glow. She blows on it gently. Woo, the glow brightens. She touches a splinter of wood to the glow. A small flame bursts into life, yellow and blue. She touches the burning wood to the wick of the lamp. The wick takes the fire. It sputters for a second, drinking the oil, then stabilizes. A warm, golden sphere of light expands in the room. It pushes the shadows back to the edges. It lights up Aelia's face. She looks calm. Her eyes are dark and heavy with the fatigue of a long, uneventful day. She blows out the splinter of wood. A thin trail of smoke rises, curling into the air. It smells of burnt pine. Aelia watches the smoke spiral upwards until it disappears into the shadows of the ceiling. She places the lamp in the center of the table. The flame is still. There is no draft in the room strong enough to make it flicker. It stands straight and tall, a tiny soldier of light guarding the room against the absolute dark. Aelia sits down again, but this time she sits by the table near the light. She looks at the flame. She watches the oil level. It is high. It will burn for hours. She has hours of quiet ahead of her. There is no one to talk to. There is no one to listen to. There is only the lamp, the wool, and the slow, steady march of the night. She picks up a piece of cloth she was mending, a white tunic. She holds it up to the light. She examines the weave. It is simple work, under over. She threads a needle. She begins to stitch, in and out, in and out. The metal needle flashes in the lamplight. The thread follows. It is a task that requires little thought. Her hands do the work. Her mind is free to float. Outside, the sky has finally turned black. The first star has appeared. Aelia does not see it. She is looking at her stitching. But the star is there, hanging over the Roman roof, shining down on the sleeping cat, on the silent street, on the vast, breathing empire. The night has truly begun, and Aelia is ready to sit through it, stitch by stitch, breath by breath, in the comfortable, boring silence of her home. The flame of the terracotta lamp is a small, living thing in the center of the room. It does not roar or crackle like a hearth fire. It merely exists, burning with a silent, steady determination. Aelia watches the tip of the flame. It is blue at the base, clinging to the blackened wick, and transitions into a soft, translucent yellow at the top. Occasionally, a tiny imperfection in the oil causes the flame to shudder, casting a momentary ripple of shadow across the table. But then it rights itself, returning to its vertical stillness. Aelia places her needle down on the table. Click, a tiny sound of metal on wood. She leaves the thread trailing from the white tunic, a thin white line connecting the work to the tool. She pushes the fabric away gently. It slides across the smooth wood of the table, bunching up like a small, soft cloud. She is hungry. It is not a sharp, painful hunger, but a hollow, quiet sensation in the center of her stomach. It is the body's clock, chiming silently, telling her that the evening has advanced. It is time for the cena, the main meal, though for her, alone in this room, it will be a simple affair. There is no need for courses, no need for sauces, no need for wine mixed with honey. There is only the need to fill the hollowness. She stands up again. Her movement creates a slight draft that makes the lamp flame bow towards her, as if acknowledging her rise. She walks to the corner of the room where a small wooden cupboard stands against the wall. The cupboard is old. The wood is dark, stained by years of smoke and oil. It has two small doors with simple wooden latches. Aelia reaches out and turns the latch. It is stiff. She applies a little pressure. The wood rubs against wood. Scrrr rich. The door swings open. Inside, the shelves are shadowed. She reaches in, her hand knowing the geography of the dark space perfectly. She touches the rough surface of a basket. She pulls it out. Inside sits a loaf of bread. It is a round loaf, scored into 8 sections like a wheel. It was baked yesterday, or perhaps the day before. The crust is hard and thick, a deep brown color, dusted with a fine layer of flour that feels like dry powder against her fingertips. She lifts the loaf. It has a reassuring weight. It is dense. It smells of yeast and toasted grain, a smell that is the very foundation of the empire. She places the bread on the table, next to the lamp. The light catches the texture of the crust, highlighting the small cracks and fissures where the dough expanded in the oven. It looks like a landscape of brown hills and valleys. She returns to the cupboard. She finds a small bowl. It is glazed on the inside, a shiny, speckled green. She brings it to the table. Then she walks to a large clay amphora standing in the corner of the room. This is the oil jar. It is heavy, sealed with a wooden stopper wrapped in linen. Aelia works the stopper loose. Pop. A faint, grassy scent escapes, the smell of olives pressed months ago in a sunny grove far to the south. She tips the heavy jar carefully, using both hands. The oil flows out. It is thick, viscous, and golden green. It moves slowly, like liquid sunlight. It fills the small green bowl. She watches the level rise. When it is half full, she tilts the jar back. A final drop hangs from the rim of the amphora, stretching, holding on until gravity claims it and it falls into the bowl. Ploop. The surface of the oil ripples, sending concentric circles out to the edges of the bowl. She replaces the stopper. She returns to her seat. The meal is laid out. Bread, Oil. Perhaps she has a little salt in a wooden box. She checks. Yes. She takes a pinch of white salt crystals and sprinkles them over the golden oil. The crystals sink slowly, disappearing into the green depths. Aelia breaks the bread. She does not use a knife. She uses her hands. She grips the loaf and pulls. The crust resists, then gives way with a sharp crack. The sound is loud in the quiet room. She pulls a chunk free. The inside of the bread, the crumb, is a lighter brown, dense and spongy. She tears off a smaller piece, bite-sized. She dips the bread into the oil. She watches the bread absorb the liquid. The dry, porous crumb drinks the oil greedily, turning a darker, saturated gold. She lifts it to her mouth. She eats. The texture is complex. The crunch of the hard crust, the softness of the interior, the slick richness of the oil, the sharp bite of the salt. She chews slowly. There is no one to talk to, so there is no need to hurry between bites. She focuses entirely on the act of chewing. The grinding of teeth, the movement of the tongue, the flavor of the wheat. It is a simple flavor, but it is enough. As she eats, she listens to the building around her. The insula is a hive of lives, stacked one on top of the other. The walls are brick and concrete, thick enough to muffle voices, but not thick enough to silence the vibrations of existence. Above her on the third floor, someone is walking. Thump, thump, thump. It is a heavy, tired walk, a man's walk, or perhaps a woman carrying something heavy. The footsteps move from one side of the room to the other, then they stop. A chair scrapes against the floor. Scrap, then silence. Aelia imagines the neighbor sitting down, perhaps sighing, perhaps looking at their own lamp. She does not know their name. In the city, you can live surrounded by people and know none of them. But their sounds are familiar. The footsteps are a nightly ritual. They are a comfort. They mean she is not the only one awake. From the apartment below, she hears a murmur. It is a low, continuous drone. Voices, a conversation. She cannot make out the words. It is just a melody of speech, the rise and fall of intonation. A man's voice deep and resonant, then a woman's voice higher, faster, then a pause, then laughter, muffled, distant laughter. Heh heh heh. It sounds warm. It sounds domestic. Aelia feels a faint echo of their connection. The laughter travels through the floorboards and enters her room, bringing a tiny spark of life with it. To her left, through the shared wall, there is silence. That apartment has been empty for a week. The previous tenants moved out, taking their noisy children and their barking dog. Now the wall is quiet. Aelia appreciates the quiet, though she misses the dog slightly. The silence of the empty apartment feels different from the silence of a sleeping apartment. It feels hollow. Dust is settling in there in the dark. She dips another piece of bread. The oil in the bowl is receding, leaving a glossy coating on the green glaze. She looks at her hands. They are working hands, though not rough. The nails are short and clean. There is a small callus on her index finger from the needle. The skin is pale in the lamplight. She watches the muscles in her hand flex as she tears the bread. It is a biological machine, efficient and quiet. She thinks of her husband's hands. They are rougher, calloused from the pilum spear and the gladius sword. She wonders what he is eating tonight. Is he sitting by a fire? Is he eating the same hard bread? Is he dipping it in oil or perhaps into a stew of lentils? She hopes he has lentils. They are warming on a cold night, but the thought is fleeting. She does not dwell on it. To dwell is to worry. She pushes the thought away gently, like sweeping crumbs off a table. He is eating. She is eating. That is enough. A fly lands on the table near the lamp. It rubs its front legs together. It walks a few inches, inspecting the grain of the wood. Aelia watches it. It is a small black speck of life. It finds a crumb of bread. It stays there, motionless. Aelia does not swat it. It is too much effort, and the fly is doing no harm. It is just a guest at her table. She finishes the bread. She uses the last piece to wipe the bowl clean, soaking up the final streaks of oil and the last grains of salt. She eats it. The bowl is now empty, save for a shiny sheen. She feels full. The hollowness in her stomach is gone, replaced by a heavy, comfortable warmth. Digestion begins, a slow internal process that draws the energy of the body inward. Her eyelids feel slightly heavier. Her shoulders drop another fraction of an inch. She sits there for a long time, staring at the empty bowl. The light from the lamp reflects in the green glaze, creating a tiny, distorted star in the bottom of the dish. She sighs. H-H-H-Ua. It is a sigh of contentment. The day's needs have been met. She is sheltered. She is fed. She is warm. Slowly, she stands up. She picks up the bowl and the cup. She walks to a small bucket of water in the corner, distinct from the drinking pitcher. She dips a rag into the water. She wipes the bowl. She wipes the cup. She wipes her hands. The water is cool and refreshing. She dries her hands on a rough linen towel hanging from a peg. The towel is scratchy against her skin. It wakes her hands up a little. She returns to the table. She sweeps the crumbs of bread into her cupped hand. Brush, brush. She walks to the window and tosses them out into the night. They fall silently into the dark street below. Perhaps a bird will find them in the morning, or a rat. It does not matter. They are returned to the city. She leans out of the window again. The air is cooler now. The stone of the windowsill feels cold under her elbows. She looks up. The moon has risen. It is a half-moon, sharp and white, hanging in the black sky. It looks like a piece of broken pottery. The light from the moon catches the edges of the tiled roofs across the street, turning them silver. The city looks different at night. The colors are gone, replaced by shades of gray and black and silver. The shapes are simplified. The world is a charcoal drawing. The street below is a canyon of shadow. There is no one walking now. No carts, no animals. The city gates are closed. The markets are empty. Rome is sleeping or pretending to sleep. Aelia breathes in the night air. It smells of smoke now, thousands of cooking fires and oil lamps burning across the city. It smells of the river, a faint, damp scent carried on the breeze. It smells of the stone cooling down. She turns back into the room. The lamp is still burning faithfully. She sits on the edge of her bed. The mattress is stuffed with straw. It crunches softly as she sits. Crinkle. It is not a soft bed, but it is familiar. It molds to her shape. She looks at her mending on the table, the white tunic, the needle. She decides she will do a little more work, just a little, until the oil drops by another finger width. She moves the stool closer to the table. She sits. She picks up the fabric. She finds the rhythm again. In, out, in, out. The silence of the room wraps around her. The footsteps upstairs have stopped. The voices downstairs have faded. There is only the soft hiss of the lamp, the breathing of the woman, and the slow, endless movement of the needle through the cloth. Time stretches out. It is not measured in minutes, but in stitches. 1 stitch, 2 stitches, 3 stitches. The night is long, and she has nowhere else to be. The oil in the terracotta lamp has burned down by perhaps the width of a thumb. The flame, once a tall and confident spear of light, has settled into a lower, warmer hum. It casts a small circle of illumination that barely reaches the edges of the table, leaving the rest of the room to be swallowed by the soft, creeping shadows of the night. Aelia sets the final stitch. She pulls the thread through the linen. Zip, a tiny, vibrating sound. She ties a small knot, her fingers moving with the dexterity of muscle memory. She bites the thread to cut it, a small, sharp snap of teeth, and places the mended tunic on the pile. The work is done. Not finished forever, for there is always mending to be done in a Roman household, but finished for tonight. She picks up the needle. It is a precious object, thin and silver gray. She does not leave it lying loose. She opens a small wooden box, inlaid with a simple geometric pattern of lighter wood. Inside, there is a cushion of wool. She slides the needle into the cushion. It disappears, leaving only the tiny eye visible. She closes the box. Click. The sound signifies the end of labor. She sits for a moment longer, resting her eyes. The strain of focusing on the white thread in the dim yellow light has left a heaviness behind her eyelids. She rubs them gently with her knuckles. She sees bursts of color in the darkness behind her eyes, faint purples and oranges, fading as the pressure releases. She stands up. The room feels cooler now. The stone walls, having lost the heat of the sun, are beginning to radiate a chill. It is the kind of cold that starts at the floor and creeps upward. Aelia feels it on her ankles. She walks to the bed and picks up a woolen shawl. It is dyed a deep saffron yellow, though in this light it looks brown. She wraps it around her shoulders. The wool is scratchy, but heavy and warm. She pulls it tight across her chest. It is time for the mundisha, the cleaning, the preparing of the body for rest. She walks to the small washstand in the corner. On it sits a copper basin. It is old, battered in places, with a patina of dark brown oxidization on the outside, but the inside is scrubbed bright and pink. Beside it is a ewer of water. Aelia lifts the ewer. It is heavy. She pours water into the basin. The sound is different here than it was in the clay cup. It is a metallic splashing. Clang, splash, swish. The water hits the copper and swirls around. She watches the surface settle. The water is dark in the dim room, a black mirror reflecting nothing but the shadows. She dips her hands in. The water is cold, shockingly cold. It has been sitting in the stone jar all day in the shade. It sends a jolt through her wrists, up her arms. She does not pull back. She cups her hands and brings the water to her face. Splash. The cold wetness hits her skin. It is bracing. It washes away the dust of the day, the smoke of the lamp, the fatigue of the eyes. She rubs her face, her cheeks, her forehead, her eyes. The water drips from her chin, falling back into the basin with irregular drip, drip, drip sounds. She reaches for the towel hanging on the peg. It is coarse linen. She buries her face in it. She rubs vigorously. The friction warms her skin. When she lowers the towel, her face feels fresh, tingling, and tight. The drowsiness has receded slightly, replaced by a clean, sharp alertness. She takes a small piece of soap, a rough mixture of tallow and ash, and washes her hands. She rubs them together. Squish, rub, there is no foam, just a slippery, milky film. She rinses them in the cold water. She dries them. She looks at her hands in the lamplight. They are pale and clean. The day is washed away. Now the hair. Aelia walks back to the stool by the table. She sits down. She reaches for her comb. It is made of bone, carved from the leg of an ox. It is yellowed with age and smoothed by years of passing through her hair. It feels warm and organic in her hand. She reaches up and begins to remove the pins from her hair. They are simple wooden pins. She pulls them out one by one. Slide, slide. As each pin is removed, the structure of her hairstyle loosens. The coils of hair, pinned up high on her head for the heat of the day, begin to slump. She removes the last pin. Her hair falls. It is a heavy, dark curtain that tumbles down her back, reaching past her shoulders. It feels heavy and luxurious after being confined all day. She shakes her head slightly. Swish, the hair settles. She brings the hair over her shoulder, pulling it forward so it rests on her chest. She begins to comb. She starts at the ends. The bone teeth of the comb catch on a tangle. She works it gently. Snag, pull, release. She moves higher. Scritch, swoosh. The sound of the comb passing through hair is a dry, rhythmic whisper. Stroke, stroke, stroke. She combs methodically, from the roots to the tips. She closes her eyes and focuses on the sensation. The teeth of the comb dragging gently against her scalp. It sends shivers of relaxation down her neck. It is a massage for the mind. There is nothing else in the world but the comb and the hair. Stroke, swoosh, stroke, swoosh. She counts the strokes in her head, or perhaps she doesn't count, but simply feels the number. 10, 20, 30. The hair becomes smooth. It shines in the lamplight, reflecting a dull copper glint. The static electricity builds up slightly, making the individual strands seek the comb. She switches sides. She brings the hair over her other shoulder. She begins again. The rhythm is unbroken. It is the rhythm of the evening, the rhythm of self-care. In a world of stone and iron, this is a moment of softness. After a long time, she puts the comb down. Clack. She runs her hands through her hair one last time. It feels like cool silk. She decides to braid it loosely for sleep. Her fingers divide the hair into 3 sections. She weaves them together, left over middle, right over middle, left over middle, right over middle. Her hands move blindly, knowing the pattern. The braid forms quickly, a thick rope of dark hair. She ties the end with a small strip of leather. She tosses the braid back over her shoulder. It lands with a soft thump against her back. She stands up. The grooming is finished. She walks to the window. The night air is fully established now. The street below is silent. The moon has moved higher, shrinking the shadows in the canyon of the street. She reaches out and grabs the handles of the wooden shutters. They are heavy oak. She pulls the left one in, creak. She pulls the right one in, creak. They meet in the middle, shutting out the moon, shutting out the city, shutting out the empire. The room is instantly darker. The only light now comes from the small oil lamp on the table. The space feels smaller, more intimate, a box of quiet. She lifts the iron latch bar. It is cold and heavy. She drops it into the brackets across the shutters. Clang, a solid final sound, the sound of safety, the sound of closed. She tests it. She pushes against the shutters. They do not move. The seal is tight. A tiny draft still whistles through a crack in the wood. Wee, a high, thin sound, but it only emphasizes the warmth inside. Aelia turns back to the room. She walks to the door of the apartment. It is a heavy wooden door bound with iron straps. She checks the bolt. It is a large iron bolt that slides into the stone doorframe. She grips the handle. She pushes it. Grind, thud, the metal slides home. It is locked. She gives the door a small tug. It holds firm. She is sealed in. The world cannot get in. The night cannot get in. She is alone with her light. She walks back to the center of the room. She looks around. Everything is in its place. The mending is in the basket. The bread is in the cupboard. The water is in the basin. The window is barred. The door is bolted. There is a profound sense of order, a geometrical satisfaction. The chaos of the day has been sorted and put away. She walks to the lararium in the niche. The small bronze statues are barely visible in the shadows. The genius of the house, the Larrys. She does not pray aloud. She simply stands before them for a moment. She acknowledges them. We are here, her silence says. We are safe. She touches her fingers to her lips and then touches the edge of the niche. A gesture of respect, a gesture of habit. She feels the fatigue settling into her bones now. It is a weight in her legs, a heaviness in her shoulders. The shawl feels heavy. The air feels thick. She looks at the bed. It waits for her. The red wool blanket is a dark expanse. The pillow, stuffed with feathers, is a pale invitation, but not quite yet. There is one last task, the lamp. She walks to the table. She picks up the lamp. She carries it to the stool beside the bed. She places it there. The light shifts with her. The shadows of the room rotate, spinning around the new center of illumination. The bed is now bathed in the warm glow, while the table and the window fade into the dark. She sits on the edge of the bed. She leans down and unbuckles her sandals. Leather straps, simple metal buckles. Click, the metal tongue releases. She loosens the straps. She slips her heel out, then her toes. She places the sandal on the floor. Tap. She does the other foot. Click, slide, tap. Her bare feet touch the floor. The stone is freezing. She lifts them quickly, tucking them up onto the wooden rail of the bed frame. She rubs her feet. They are pale and cold. She massages the arch of her foot. Rub, rub, she feels the bones of her feet, the hard heel, the delicate toes. They have carried her all day, walking to the market, walking to the well, standing at the stove. Rest now, she thinks. She stands up on the small rug beside the bed. It is a piece of woven wool, thick and rough. It separates her from the cold stone. She unties the belt of her tunic, a simple woven cord. She loops it and places it on the stool. She is wearing a simple undertunic, a tunica intima, soft and worn thin by washing. It is comfortable. It is her sleepwear. She turns down the red blanket. The straw mattress rustles, crackle, crunch. It smells of dry straw and dried herbs, mint and rosemary, scattered inside to keep it fresh. She sits on the mattress. It sinks under her weight. She swings her legs up. She slides down. She pulls the heavy wool blanket up. It is heavy, a reassuring weight. It presses down on her legs, her hips, her chest. She pulls it right up to her chin. She shivers once as her body adjusts to the cool sheets, then begins to warm the space around her. She is in the nest. She lies on her side, facing the lamp. She watches the flame. It is burning lower now. The oil is being consumed. She reaches out a hand from under the warm covers. Her arm feels cold in the air. She picks up a small metal cone, a snuffer lying on the stool. Or perhaps she doesn't snuff it yet. Perhaps she leaves it burning. A small vigil. She decides to leave it for a moment, just to watch it, just to feel the presence of the light. She closes her eyes. She listens to the room one last time. The wind whistling through the shutter crack. The settling of the timbers in the roof. Creak. The distant, rhythmic dripping of water somewhere outside. Plip, 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 and the sound of her own breath. In, out, slow, steady. The day is done. The Roman evening is over. The night has taken the city, and Aelia drifts on the surface of sleep, waiting for the deep dark, waiting for the silence to become absolute. The lamp is still burning. Aelia lies on her side, her cheek resting on the bolster, watching the tiny tongue of fire. It is the only movement in the room. The flame is a small, yellow dancer, swaying to music that no one can hear. It stretches up, becomes thin and needle-like, then squats down, becoming blue and wide. It consumes the oil, drop by drop, converting the ancient sunlight trapped in the olive into a soft, flickering glow for this single room in Rome. Aelia feels the weight of the wool blanket pressing down on her. It is a significant weight. The blanket is thick, woven tightly to keep out the winter chill. It is not soft like the linen tunic she wears against her skin. It has a roughness, a texture that she can feel even through the layers. It tickles her chin where the edge meets her skin. She likes the scratchiness. It reminds her of the reality of the world. It is a barrier, a wall of wool between her body and the cold air of the room. She wiggles her toes deep inside the bed. The bottom of the bed is still cool. The heat from her body has not yet reached the far corners of the mattress. Her feet explore the texture of the sheet. It is smooth in places, nubby in others. She finds a cold spot with her big toe and presses against it, enjoying the contrast between the warmth of her blood and the chill of the fabric. The straw in the mattress beneath her is not silent. Every time she breathes, every time her ribcage expands and contracts, the straw whispers, rustle, crinkle, hush. It is a dry, organic sound. It smells faintly of the fields outside the city walls. It smells of summer, preserved and dried and stuffed into a sack to hold a sleeper in the winter. Aelia watches the shadows on the ceiling. The lamp casts the shadow of the pitcher against the wall and up onto the beams. The shadow is elongated, distorted. It looks like a giant, dark bird looming over the room. As the flame flickers, the shadow bird flutters its wings. Aelia watches it. She is not afraid. She knows it is just a pitcher. She knows the geometry of the light. She thinks about the oil in the lamp again. It is a precious commodity. To burn it while sleeping is a waste. It is a luxury she allowed herself for a few minutes to settle the mind, but now the thrift of the soldier's wife takes over. She must put it out. She argues with herself for a moment. The light is comforting. The dark is absolute, but the oil costs sestertii, and the dark is free. She takes a deep breath. She prepares to move. She slides her arm out from under the warm sanctuary of the blanket. The air in the room strikes her skin immediately. It is colder now than it was 10 minutes ago. The stone walls are sucking the heat out of the air. Her arm feels naked and vulnerable in the chill. She reaches out. Her fingers navigate the space between the bed and the stool. She knows the distance. She does not need to look. Her fingers touch the cool clay base of the lamp. She locates the handle. She lifts the lamp slightly, bringing it closer to her face. The smell of the hot oil is stronger now. She purses her lips. She blows. A short, sharp breath. PFFFD. The flame vanishes. Instantly, there is no fade out. One moment, there is a golden room with walls and beams and a pitcher. The next moment, there is nothing. The darkness rushes in to fill the vacuum left by the light. It is a heavy, physical darkness. It presses against her eyes. For a few seconds, a ghost image of the flame lingers on her retina, a bright blue-green spot floating in the blackness. Aelia watches the spot. It drifts to the left. It drifts to the right. It slowly fades, turning purple, then gray, then merging with the dark. Now there is only the smell of the extinguished wick. It is a sharp, acrid scent of smoke. It curls into her nose. It is the smell of the end of the day. It signals to the brain that the time for seeing is over. The time for doing is over. There is only the time for being. Aelia retracts her arm quickly, pulling it back under the blanket. She tucks it against her chest, hugging herself to reclaim the warmth. She shivers once. BRRR. The cold air has followed her arm into the bed. She shifts her legs, rearranging the blanket to seal the gap. She pushes her heels down, tucking the wool under her feet. She is a cocoon again, sealed, airtight. With the light gone, the room changes shape. It no longer has walls or a ceiling. It is just a void. Aelia feels like she is floating in a vast, empty space. Her senses shift. Her eyes are useless now, so her ears take over. The silence of the insula amplifies. What was quiet before is now loud. She hears the wind again. It is whistling through the gap in the shutter. Wee, woo. It sounds like a flute played by a tired musician. It rises and falls in pitch. Aelia imagines the wind sweeping through the narrow streets of Rome, rushing past the columns of the Forum, swirling around the statues of the emperors. It is a cold wind. She is glad to be inside. She hears a creak from the floor above. Kriak, someone is walking, a slow, heavy step, then a pause, then another step. Thump. Is it the old man who lives there, or his son? It doesn't matter. It is just a sound of life. She hears a muffled cough. Cough, cough. It sounds dry and distant, filtered through layers of timber and brick. Then the scraping of a chair leg. Urge. Then silence again. She listens to the apartment below. The voices have stopped. The laughter has stopped. But she can hear a low, rhythmic sound. Zzzzz. Snort. Zzzzz. Snort. Someone is snoring. It is a rhythmic, guttural sound. It vibrates slightly through the floorboards. It is a human sound. It is annoying, perhaps, during the day. But at night, it is a reminder that she is surrounded by sleepers. She is part of a great, vertical colony of resting people. The snoring is the heartbeat of the building. Aelia rolls onto her back. The straw crunches loudly in the quiet room. Crunch, rustle. She stares up into the blackness. She cannot see the beams anymore, but she knows they are there. She traces them in her mind. One beam over the door, one beam over the window, one beam directly above her head. They are made of oak. They are old. They have held up the floor above for 50 years. They will hold it up for 50 more. She trusts the beams. She feels an itch on her ankle. She ignores it. To scratch it would mean moving her foot, breaking the seal of warmth, letting the cold air in. She focuses her mind on the itch. She visualizes it as a small, red glowing dot. She imagines a cool wave of water washing over the dot. The itch fades, mind over matter, the discipline of the soldier's wife. Her thoughts begin to drift. They lose their sharp edges. They become round and fuzzy. She thinks about the market. She needs to buy lentils tomorrow, and perhaps an onion. She visualizes the onion, the papery brown skin, the sound it makes when you peel it. Crackle. She visualizes the lentils, small, hard green discs, pouring them from a scoop into a bag, the sound of them falling like rain. SHHH. SHHH. She counts the lentils in her mind. 1 lentil, 2 lentils, 3 lentils. It is a boring task. It is a perfect task. She feels the weight of her own body sinking into the mattress. Her hips are heavy. Her shoulders are heavy. Her head is heavy on the bolster. The bolster is firm. It pushes back against her neck. She turns her head slightly to the left. The feathers inside the bolster shift with a soft FFFT sound. She finds a cooler spot on the linen case. Ah, the cool linen against her warm cheek is a small, exquisite pleasure. She thinks about the clay pitcher on the table. Is it lonely in the dark? No, it is an object. Objects do not feel, but she feels a kinship with it. It stands there, holding water, waiting. She is lying here, holding sleep, waiting. They are both vessels. A sudden sound from the street startles her slightly. Clatter. Something fell. A tile, a pot. She tenses. Her eyes widen in the dark, though there is nothing to see. She listens. Is there a follow-up sound, a voice, a footstep? She holds her breath. Silence, just the wind, just the snoring below. She relaxes. Her muscles uncoil. It was nothing, just the city settling, just gravity doing its work. She returns to her breathing. In, out, the air in the room is stale and cold. It tastes of dust and old wood. She breathes it in. It is the air of home. She feels her chest rise. The blanket rises with it. She feels her chest fall. The blanket settles. She is a bellows, pumping slowly. She tries to remember her husband's face. It is sometimes hard to see him clearly in the dark. She remembers his nose, the crook in it where it was broken once. She remembers his beard, scratchy like the wool blanket. She remembers the smell of his tunic, leather and sweat and metal. But the image is static, like a painting. It does not move. She does not try to force it to move. She lets the image float in the dark, a silent companion. He is sleeping too, she tells herself. Somewhere under the same stars. Maybe he is looking at the moon. Maybe he is listening to the wind. Aelia feels a heaviness behind her eyes, a pressure. Sleep is coming. It is approaching like a slow tide. She feels herself slipping. Her thoughts become nonsensical. The onion is made of wool. The lamp is singing a song. She catches herself. She jerks awake slightly. A hypnic jerk. Her leg kicks out. Thump. She opens her eyes again. I am awake, she thinks, but she is not really. She is on the threshold, the liman. She decides to turn onto her side again. The back position feels too exposed. She rolls, rustle, crunch. She faces the wall she cannot see. She curls her knees up towards her chest. The fetal position. She pulls the blanket up over her ear. Now she is truly buried. The sound of the wind is muffled. The sound of the snoring is muffled. There is only the sound of her own blood rushing in her ear, pressed against the pillow. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. It sounds like the ocean. She has never seen the ocean. But she has heard of it. Endless water, rolling waves. She imagines she is floating on that water, drifting, bobbing up and down. The darkness is not black anymore. It is a deep, dark gray. It pulses slightly. Aelia lets go of the tension in her jaw. Her mouth opens slightly. She lets go of the tension in her fingers. They curl loosely on the sheet. She lets go of the tension in her mind. She stops counting the lentils. She stops watching the shadow bird. She stops waiting for the morning. She is just a body in a bed in a room in a city, a small, warm point in a cold, vast universe. The night stretches out before her, hours and hours of nothingness. It is a gift, a long, boring, empty gift, and she accepts it. She takes one more deep breath, chua, and then the rhythm changes. It becomes shallower, automatic. The mind disconnects from the controls. Aelia is gone. Only the sleeper remains. The room is now fully submerged in the deep, oceanic trench of the night. Time, which moves so linearly during the day, marked by the sundial, the changing of the guards, the opening and closing of the markets, has dissolved. In the darkness of the insula, time has become a pool. It sits stagnant and heavy, filling the corners of the room, pressing against the chest of the sleeper. Aelia is asleep, but sleep is not a single state. It is a journey through different territories. She has left the shores of wakefulness, where the thoughts are sharp and logical, and she is drifting now in the shallow waters of the first cycle. Her body is still reacting to the day. Her muscles, tight from sitting and standing and walking, are slowly unspooling. Her right hand, resting on the mattress outside the blanket, twitches once. Flick. It is a small, involuntary spasm. The thumb moves as if it is trying to catch a falling spindle. Then it relaxes. The fingers curl inward, forming a loose, empty cup. The temperature in the room continues to drop. The stone walls, which held the heat of the afternoon sun, have now surrendered it all to the night air. The bricks are cooling. The plaster is cooling. The air molecules themselves seem to slow down, becoming sluggish and dense. Aelia feels this cold in her sleep. It does not wake her, but it informs her dreams. She dreams she is walking near the Tiber River in winter. The water is gray and sluggish. A cold mist rises from the surface, wrapping around her ankles. In the dream, she pulls her shawl tighter. In the bed, she mirrors the action. Her hand, acting on a command from the subconscious, reaches out and grips the edge of the red wool blanket. She pulls it higher, tucking it right under her nose. The wool smells of sheep and dust. It is a warm, earthy smell that replaces the cold mist of the dream. The silence of the room is not empty, it is textured. If you listen closely, as Aelia does with her sleeping ears, you can hear the house settling. Crack, a sharp, dry sound from the wooden wardrobe. The wood is contracting as it cools. Creak, a low groan from the ceiling beam. It is shifting a fraction of a millimeter, adjusting to the weight of the floor above. Rustle, a tiny sound from the corner. A mouse. or perhaps just a dry leaf blowing across the floor, pushed by a draft from under the door. These sounds are the language of the night. They are not threats, they are the house talking to itself. Aelia rolls over. The movement is slow and heavy. She is like a seal turning in the water. She pushes with her heel against the mattress. The straw compresses. Crunch, squish, she lifts her hip. She turns her shoulder. She moves from her side to her stomach. This is a position of deep comfort. She splays her arms out, sliding her hands under the bolster. The bolster is firm. It is stuffed with goose feathers, a luxury from her dowry. She hugs the bolster. She turns her face to the side, pressing her cheek into the cool linen of the pillowcase. She sighs, H-H-H-Chua, a long, shuddering breath that empties her lungs of the stale air. She inhales. The air near the pillow smells of lavender and her own skin. She is drifting deeper now. The dream of the river fades. The gray water dissolves into a field of wheat, but it is not a normal field. It is a field of static golden grain. There is no wind. The wheat does not move. Aelia is standing in the middle of it. She is waiting. For what? For nothing. She just stands there, feeling the sun on her face. It is a boring dream, a dream of stasis. It is perfect for resting. Back in the room, a draft finds its way through the shutter. The wind outside has shifted direction, coming now from the north, from the mountains. It pushes against the wood, finding the weak spots, the cracks, the warped places. A thin stream of cold air enters the room. It travels across the floor, an invisible river of cold. It hits the leg of the table. It flows around the amphora. It reaches the bed. It touches Aelia's exposed foot. Her heel is sticking out from the bottom of the blanket. The cold air caresses her skin. Chill. The sensation travels up her leg to her spine. In her dream, the sun goes behind a cloud. Aelia frowns in her sleep. Her brow furrows. She retracts her leg. She pulls her knees up, curling into a ball. She tucks her feet into the warm hollow behind her thighs. The crisis is averted. The warmth is restored. Her brow smooths out. The sun returns to the wheat field. She is entering the third watch, the Tertia Vigilia. In the military camps on the frontiers, the trumpets would be sounding now, low and mournful, signaling the change of the guard. Men in iron armor would be waking up, rubbing their eyes, picking up their spears to stand on the freezing walls. But here, in the heart of the city, the third watch is silent. It is the deepest part of the night, the time when the revelers have gone home and the bakers have not yet risen. It is the hour of the wolf. The hour of the ghost, but in this room there are no ghosts, only the heavy, comfortable presence of the mundane. Aelia's breathing changes rhythm. It becomes deeper, slower, in, pause, out, in, pause, out. It is a rhythmic tide. Her heart rate slows down. Thump, thump, thump. Her body is repairing itself. The small tears in the muscles from lifting water buckets are knitting together. The skin on her fingers, roughened by the needle, is softening. The mind, cluttered with the prices of lentils and the gossip of the well, is being swept clean. She thinks in the vague, logicless way of a sleeper about the concept of the wall, not the city wall, the wall of her room. She imagines the bricks, row upon row of flat red Roman bricks. She counts them in her mind. 1 brick, 2 bricks, 3 bricks, mortar in between, gray and gritty, 4 bricks, 5 bricks. It is a mental construction project. She builds the wall higher and higher, blocking out the noise, blocking out the light, enclosing herself in a fortress of boredom. She feels safe behind the wall of counted bricks. Suddenly, a sound from the street penetrates the shutter. Clop, 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 a horse. At this hour, Aelia stirs. She does not wake fully, but she rises to the surface of consciousness. She listens. The sound is rhythmic, hooves on stone, but it is slow, a tired horse, perhaps a messenger, perhaps a doctor. The sound gets louder as it passes under her window. Clop, 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 then it fades, moving down the street, getting quieter. Clop, 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 silence returns. Aelia's brain processes the sound. Not a threat, it concludes, just a passerby. Go to sleep, she tells herself. She sinks back down. She feels a heaviness in her left arm. She has been lying on it. It is tingling, pins and needles. She needs to move, but moving is an effort. It requires will. She procrastinates. She tries to ignore the tingling. It gets worse. A dull buzz, with a groan of annoyance, MMNGH, she initiates the maneuver. She lifts her torso. The straw mattress shifts and crunches. She pulls her left arm out from under her body. It feels thick and useless, like a piece of wood. She shakes it gently. Flop, flop, the blood rushes back, a hot, prickly sensation. She lays the arm across her body on top of the blanket. It cools down quickly in the night air. She rolls onto her back. She stares up at the darkness. Her eyes are open, but she sees nothing. The room is pitch black. There is no difference between having her eyes open or closed. She blinks. She sees phosphines, tiny swirling dots of color in the dark, blue and green. They rotate slowly like stars in a personal galaxy. She watches them. They are mesmerizing. They change shape, a circle, a square, a line. She traces the line with her mind. It leads her back to sleep. She thinks about the amphora of oil standing in the corner. She imagines the oil inside, green, still, heavy. She imagines herself as the oil, fluid, silent, contained in a strong vessel. She feels liquid. Her bones feel like they are melting into the mattress. She flows into the spaces between the straw. She becomes heavy. Gravity pulls her down towards the center of the earth. She likes the feeling of heaviness. It anchors her. She is not a bird. She is a stone, a warm, breathing stone. The silence is broken by a sound from the apartment above. Thump, just one. Someone dropped a shoe or fell out of bed. Aelia waits for a second sound. A cry, a curse, nothing, just the one thump. Then the silence rushes back in to fill the hole the sound made. It heals over. Aelia wonders briefly about the life above, but the thought is too heavy to hold. It slips away. She doesn't care. They are asleep. She is asleep. That is the only relationship that matters now. She runs her tongue over her teeth. They feel fuzzy. She swallows. Her throat is dry. She thinks about the water in the pitcher. It is only 3 steps away. She could get up. She could drink. She imagines the cool water sliding down her throat, but the air is so cold, and the blanket is so warm. The thirst is not strong enough to conquer the comfort. She decides to wait until morning. She produces a little saliva in her mouth. She swallows again. It is enough. She drifts into a memory, a boring memory. She's sitting on a bench in the sun, shelling peas. Pop the pod, slide the thumb. The peas fall into the bowl. Plip, 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 pop, slide, plip, pop, slide, plip. The memory is a loop. It has no beginning and no end, just green peas and sunshine and the repetitive motion of her thumb. She does this for what feels like hours in her mind. It is a meditation. The green of the peas fills her vision. It is a soothing color, not the black of the night. Not the red of the blanket, just green. She feels the texture of the sheet under her hand. She scratches it gently with her fingernail. ZZZZT. It is rough linen. She feels the crosshatch of the weave. Up and down, up and down. She traces a single thread as far as she can reach. It goes on and on. She wonders who spun this thread. Was it a woman like her, sitting by a window? Did she get tired? Did she want to sleep? Thank you, Aelia thinks to the unknown spinner. Your thread is holding me. She feels a profound sense of neutrality. She is not happy. She is not sad. She is not anxious. She is not excited. She just is. She is existing in the dark. This is the true peace of the Roman night, the cessation of striving, the pause button on the empire. She moves her feet again. They are warm now, toasty warm. She rubs them against each other. Frot, frot. It feels good. She smiles, a tiny, invisible movement of her lips in the dark. She is winning the battle against the winter. She has created a tropical island in a sea of ice. She rolls her head to the side again. The bolster crunches. She aligns her nose with a small gap in the blanket so she can breathe fresh air. The air coming in is cold, but her body heats it up before it reaches her lungs. She is a furnace. She is a machine of warmth. She listens to the wind again. It has died down. The whistling has stopped. Now there is only a gentle stillness. The city is holding its breath, waiting for the dawn. But the dawn is far away. There are hours left, hours of nothing. Hours of beautiful, empty, boring time. Aelia sinks, down, down, past the wheat field, past the river, past the wall of bricks, into the void, the gray, soft, woolen void of deep sleep. The night has thickened. It has become a physical substance, a heavy, dark liquid that fills the room from the stone floor to the wooden beams. The silence is no longer just an absence of noise. It is a presence, a pressure that pushes against the eardrums. Aelia is deep underwater in this ocean of silence. But the body has its own demands, independent of the night. Aelia's mouth is dry. Her tongue feels heavy and rough, like a piece of dry leather. It sticks to the roof of her mouth. She swallows in her sleep. Click. It is a dry, uncomfortable swallow. The sensation travels from her throat to her brain. It knocks gently on the door of her consciousness. Water, the body whispers. Aelia ignores it. She is warm. She is comfortable. She is miles away in a dream about green peas. Water, the body whispers louder. The dream wavers. The green peas turn into dry pebbles. The sun in the dream becomes hot and scorching. Aelia shifts. She turns her head on the pillow. She tries to find a position where the thirst does not exist, but the thirst is patient. It waits. Water. Slowly, reluctantly, Aelia wakes up. It is not a sudden awakening. Her eyes do not snap open. Instead, she floats up from the bottom of the sleep potion. She breaks the surface. She opens her eyes. The room is absolute black. There is no moon shining through the shutter cracks now. The moon has moved on, crossing the roof of the sky to light the other side of the city. Aelia lies there, blinking in the dark. She runs her tongue over her lips. They are dry. She sighs. HHHRRRGH. A sound of frustration. She knows she has to get up. The thirst is now an itch in her throat that cannot be scratched by sleep. She begins the mental preparation for the journey. It is only 5 steps to the table, but it involves leaving the fortress of the blanket. It involves exposing her skin to the enemy, the cold air. She calculates the cost. Is the water worth the cold? Yes. She takes a deep breath. She gathers her will. 1, 2, 3. She throws the blanket back. Whoosh. The cold air strikes instantly. It is aggressive. It bites her arms, her neck, her chest. She sits up quickly to minimize the transition time. She swings her legs over the edge of the bed. Her feet search for the floor. They find it. Touch. The stone is freezing. It feels like standing on a block of ice. Aelia gasps softly. H. She curls her toes, trying to minimize the surface area touching the stone. She stands on the sides of her feet for a second. She stands up. She is dizzy. The sudden movement after hours of horizontal stillness makes the darkness spin. She holds onto the bedpost. It is rough wood. She anchors herself. The spinning stops. She begins to walk. She moves slowly. Her hands are outstretched, swimming in the black air. She knows the room. She knows the table is there. But the darkness can play tricks. It can move furniture. Step 1. Slide. Her foot drags on the stone to avoid stubbing a toe. Step 2. Slide. Step 3. Her fingertips brush against something smooth and cold. The amphora. She corrects her course slightly to the left. Step 4. Her hip bumps the edge of the table. Thud. It is a gentle bump. She is there. Her hands explore the tabletop. They move like blind crabs. They find the rough wood. They find the mending basket. They find the lamp, cold now. They find the pitcher. It is cold and damp. Condensation has formed on the outside of the clay. It feels slippery and alive. She grips the handle. It fits her hand perfectly. She searches for the cup. Clink. She finds it. She lifts the pitcher. It is heavy with water. She pours. In the dark, she has to rely on sound to know when the cup is full. Glug, glug, glug. The sound changes pitch as the water level rises in the cup, from a hollow, deep sound to a higher, fuller sound. Plip, she stops. Perfect. Not a drop spilled. A skill learned from a lifetime of nights. She lifts the cup to her lips. The rim of the cup is rough clay. It scrapes gently against her skin. She tilts her head back. The water flows. It is shockingly cold. It tastes of the river, filtered through sand, and it tastes of the clay vessel. It tastes of minerals and earth. It washes over her dry tongue. It floods her throat. Gulp, gulp, gulp. She drinks greedily. The sensation of the cold water traveling down into her empty stomach is distinct. She can feel the path of the liquid cooling her core. She lowers the cup. She gasps. Ah, it is the best drink she has ever had. It is sweeter than wine. It is life itself. She stands there for a moment, holding the empty cup. She is awake now. Her senses are sharp. She listens to the street. Through the heavy oak shutters, she hears a sound. It is a rhythmic metallic sound. Clang, crunch, clang, crunch. It is getting louder. It is the sound of hobnailed boots on cobblestones. Many boots, walking in unison. Aelia freezes. She holds her breath. She knows this sound. It is the vigils, the night watch, the firefighters and police of Rome. They are patrolling the sector. She creeps closer to the window. She presses her ear against the crack in the shutter. She can hear the low murmur of men's voices. Check the alley. Clear. Keep moving. Rough, tired voices. Roman voices. She imagines them. Men in leather armor, carrying buckets and axes and lanterns, walking the dark streets while the city sleeps, looking for smoke, looking for trouble. The sound of their boots passes directly under her window. Crunch, crunch, crunch. The vibration travels up the brick wall and into the floor of her room. She can feel it through her bare feet. She feels a surge of gratitude. She is not alone. The empire is awake. The system is working. Someone is watching the fire so she doesn't have to. The sound fades, moving down the street, becoming distant. Clang, crunch, clang, silence returns. Aelia shivers. The cold has seeped through her thin tunic. It is settling into her bones. She needs to get back to the nest. She turns around. She navigates the room again, past the table, past the amphora. She finds the bed. She climbs in. The mattress has cooled in her absence. The warm spot she left is gone, or at least faded. She lies down. Rustle. She pulls the blanket up. She pulls it up over her head this time, creating a tent. She breathes into the tent. Her warm breath fills the small space. She rubs her feet together. Frot, frot. She shivers violently for a few seconds. Brrrrrrrrr. Then the wool does its work. It traps her heat. The shivering stops. Her muscles relax. She lies there listening to her own heart. It is beating a little faster because of the cold water and the movement. Thump, 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 thump. She waits for it to slow down. She thinks about the water she just drank. She imagines it hydrating her body, turning into blood, turning into life. She feels clean inside. Her mind begins to drift again. The sharp edges of the room soften. She thinks about a garden, a peristyllium. She visited one once in the house of a wealthy merchant where she delivered sewing. She remembers the columns, white marble. She remembers the fountain in the center, a stone dolphin spouting water. In her mind, she goes back to that garden. It is sunny there. She sits on a stone bench. She watches the water arching from the dolphin's mouth. Splash, splash. The sound of the water in the dream merges with the memory of the water she just drank. She sees fish in the pool. Orange fish, silver fish. They swim slowly. Swish, swish. She puts her hand in the water. The fish come to her. They kiss her fingers, ticklish, soft. Aelia smiles in the dark. The dream is taking hold. The cold room is gone. The stone floor is gone. There is only the garden, and the sun and the fish. She sinks deeper. Her breathing evens out. In, out. She is back in the cycle. The interruption is forgotten. The thirst is quenched. The watch has passed. All is well. She rolls onto her side. Her hand falls over the edge of the mattress. Her fingers dangle in the air, completely relaxed. The night continues its slow, boring march towards the dawn, and Aelia sleeps, deeply, quietly, Romanly. The night has now stretched its full length across the city. It is the deep, middle quiet, the time between the last patrol of the vigils and the first stirring of the roosters. The insula stands like a cliff face in the darkness, a vertical landscape of brick and timber, housing its hundreds of sleeping souls. It is a massive, silent lung, holding its breath. Inside the room, the atmosphere has settled into a profound stillness. The dust motes, which danced in the lamplight hours ago, have all drifted down to rest on the floor, on the table on the rim of the pitcher. The air is clear and cold. It is a motionless block of atmosphere, undisturbed by any movement. Aelia lies in the center of this stillness. She has moved again. The tight ball of warmth she created earlier has loosened. She lies now on her back, her arms resting by her sides, submerged under the heavy red blanket. Her head is turned slightly to the right, sinking deep into the bolster. Her dark hair, braided for the night, is a heavy rope against her neck. She is dreaming. The dream of the garden and the fish has faded, dissolving into the ether. Now she is dreaming of a loom. She is standing in a large, airy room. It is not her room. It is a workshop, perhaps. The light is bright and even coming from high windows. In front of her is a massive vertical loom. The warp threads hang down, weighted with clay loom weights. They are white threads, taut and straight. Aelia is weaving. She passes the shuttle through the threads. Slide. She pulls the weft tight. She uses the wooden sword to beat the thread up. Thump, slide, pull, thump, slide, pull, thump. It is a rhythmic, hypnotic dream. She's not weaving a pattern. She's just weaving white cloth. Endless, plain, white linen. There is no hurry. There is no end to the thread. She watches her own hands in the dream. They move with a mechanical grace. They know exactly what to do. The sound of the wooden beater hitting the cloth is the only sound in the dream. Thump, thump, thump. It matches the beat of her heart in the real world. The darkness of the bedroom, a tiny event occurs. A piece of plaster, old and dry, detaches itself from the ceiling corner. It falls. It drifts down through the dark air, a flake of history. It lands on the wooden floorboards near the door. Click. It is a microscopic sound, smaller than a whisper, but in the absolute silence of the insula, it registers. Aelia's ear catches the vibration. It enters her dream. In the dream, a thread snaps. Ping. Aelia stops weaving. She looks at the broken thread. She is not upset. She simply ties it together, a tiny knot. She resumes. Slide, pull, thump. The rhythm is restored. The piece is unbroken. She feels the weight of the blanket on her toes. Her feet are fully warm now. The blood is circulating freely, warming the extremities. She wiggles her big toe. It pushes up against the heavy wool. It feels the resistance. She likes the weight. It feels like a reassuring hand holding her feet down, keeping her from floating away into the ceiling. She relaxes her foot. It falls back to the side. Her breathing is a soft, hydraulic hiss. In, out. The air entering her nose is cold. The air leaving her nose is warm. She is a machine converting the chill of the night into the warmth of life. She is the hearth of the room, burning slowly on a fuel of bread and oil and sleep. She thinks, or rather, drifts through a thought about the concept of the road. The Via Appia. She imagines the stones, large, flat, gray polygons, fitted together perfectly. She imagines walking on them, step, step, step. The road stretches out to the horizon. Pine trees line the sides. She's walking to nowhere, just walking. The sound of her sandals on the stones is rhythmic. Clack, clack, clack. It is a boring, comforting journey. There are no bandits, no carts, no soldiers. Just the road and the walking. She walks for miles in her mind, without getting tired, without getting thirsty. It is the travel of the soul. Back in the room, the smell has changed slightly. The sharp scent of the extinguished lamp smoke has completely vanished, scrubbed away by the hours. Now the room smells of the stone walls, a damp mineral smell, like the inside of a cave. It smells of the old wood of the chest, a faint, spicy scent of cedar and age. It smells of the sleep itself, a musk of warm skin and wool. Aelia breathes it in. It is the scent of safety. She rolls her head to the left. The feathers in the bolster crunch softly, crinkle. The movement is slow, almost geological. She finds a new spot on the linen pillowcase. It is cool. Ah, the sensation of the cool fabric against her warm cheek is exquisite. It sends a shiver of pleasure down her spine. She sighs. Chua. She nuzzles into the coolness, claiming it. She stays there. She feels a heaviness in her hands. They are resting on her stomach, interlaced. They feel like they are made of stone, marble hands. She tries to lift a finger. It feels immensely heavy. It requires great will. She lifts her index finger a fraction of an inch. It trembles. Then she lets it drop. Tap. It falls back onto her knuckle. She abandons the effort. Sleep hands, she thinks. You have done enough. No weaving tonight. No washing. Just heavy. She hears a sound from the floor below. A baby crying, just for a second. Waya, then it is silenced. A mother's hand, a pacifier, a breast. The sound is cut off. Aelia hears it. It triggers a faint, distant memory of her own childhood, or perhaps a worry for the future. But the sleep is too heavy. It smothers the thought. Hush, she thinks. Sleep, little one. The night is long. The silence returns, heavier than before. She thinks about the olive trees. She imagines a grove of them, twisted trunks, silvery leaves, the wind blowing through them. Shhhhhhh. She imagines the olives hanging on the branches, black and green pearls. She imagines the oil inside them, waiting to be pressed, waiting to become light. She feels a kinship with the olives. She is waiting too, waiting for the sun. Her mind drifts to the wooden chest at the foot of the bed. She visualizes the contents, the folded tunics, the extra blanket, the small bag of dried lavender. She sees them in the dark of her mind. Neat, organized, hidden, she likes knowing they are there. It is a secret store of order. If the world ends tomorrow, her tunics are folded. This thought is strangely comforting. It anchors her. A draft touches her ear, the one exposed to the air. It feels like a cold finger tracing the shell of her ear. She twitches. She hunches her shoulder up, trying to bury her ear in the warmth of the bolster. It works. The cold finger is blocked. She settles deeper, burrowing into the straw mattress like a small animal. She is entering a deeper phase of sleep now. The dream of the loom is gone. The dream of the road is gone. Now there are only shapes. Abstract colors floating in the dark. A blue circle, a gray square. They rotate slowly, expanding and contracting. It is the geometry of the unconscious. She watches the shapes. They are beautiful and meaningless. They are the screensaver of the mind. She feels a vibration, a heavy cart passing on a main road streets away. It is too far to hear the wheels, but the weight of it shakes the ground deep below the city. The vibration travels up the foundations of the insula. It travels through the brick. It travels through the wood. It reaches the bed. Aelia feels a tiny, almost imperceptible tremble in the mattress. Hummum. It lasts for 3 seconds, then it is gone. The city is moving, she thinks dreamily. The giant is turning over. She accepts the movement. She rides the tiny earthquake into deeper sleep. She swallows again. Her throat is moist now from the water she drank earlier. It is a smooth, easy swallow. She licks her lips. They feel soft. She feels entirely physically satisfied. No hunger, no thirst, no cold, no pain. She is in a state of equilibrium, a perfect balance between the body and the environment. She thinks about the concept of tomorrow. It is a vague, gray concept. Tomorrow means lighting the fire again. Tomorrow means walking to the well. Tomorrow means waiting for news of the Legion. But tomorrow is behind a thick wall. She pushes it away. Not yet, she whispers to the dark. Give me the night. Give me the nothing. She clings to the present moment, the moment of the warm bed and the silent room. She feels the texture of the linen sheet under her legs. It has been washed many times. It is soft, almost silky, but still has the slight nubby texture of flax. She rubs her leg against it. Swish, just a tiny movement, checking that she is still there, checking that the bed is still there. It is. She stops moving. She lets gravity take her again. She sinks, down through the mattress, down through the floor, down into the Roman earth. She is a fossil. She is a root. She is a sleeping woman. The darkness presses against her eyelids. It is a heavy, velvet weight. She welcomes it. She wraps the darkness around her like a second blanket. It is cool and quiet. It protects her from the glare of the sun, from the eyes of the neighbors, from the demands of the day. She is hidden. She is Aelia, and she is asleep. The night hangs suspended over Rome. It is a physical weight, pressing down on the tiled roofs, filling the narrow alleys and settling into the courtyards of the insulae. The energy of the city, which usually vibrates with a chaotic hum, has been completely absorbed by the dark. The silence is not merely an absence of noise, it is a presence in itself. It is a thick, velvety substance that fills the room, plugging the cracks in the walls and muffling the air. Aelia lies in the center of this silence. She has not moved for some time. Her body has become a heavy, static object, anchored to the bed by gravity and exhaustion. The red wool blanket, which she pulled up earlier, has settled around her form. It follows the curve of her hip, the dip of her waist, and the slope of her shoulder. It is a landscape of wool, a miniature mountain range in the dark room. Inside this wool landscape, the temperature is perfect. Aelia has created a microclimate of tropical warmth. Her skin is warm. Her blood flows slowly and easily through her veins, carrying oxygen to the resting muscles. The contrast between the air under the blanket and the air in the room is stark. If she were to stick her hand out now, the air would feel like cold water. But she does not stick her hand out. She keeps her limbs tucked in, hoarding the heat. She is dreaming again. The dream of the sorting is over. The dream of the wall is over. Now she is dreaming of water. She's standing on a ridge looking at an aqueduct. It stretches across a green valley, a line of stone arches marching toward the city. The arches are tall and graceful, gray stone against a blue sky. She's walking along the top of the aqueduct, on the maintenance path next to the covered water channel. She can hear the water rushing inside the stone channel. Shhhwash. It is a continuous, powerful sound, the sound of a river captured and tamed. She walks at the same pace as the water. She is escorting the water to Rome. She places one foot in front of the other. Step, step, step. The stone path is warm under her sandals. She looks down at the valley floor far below. Sheep look like white pebbles. Trees look like broccoli. She feels no fear of the height. In the dream, she is safe. She is part of the structure. She walks for miles, arch after arch. The rhythm of the arches passing beneath her is hypnotic. One arch, two arches, three arches. It is a journey without a destination. The aqueduct goes on forever, a gray ribbon tying the mountains to the city. She runs her hand along the stone covering of the channel. It is rough and cool. She feels the vibration of the water inside. Hummum. It is the pulse of the empire. She walks and walks and walks. There is nothing to do but walk and listen to the water. In the real room, the air has become stagnant. The dust motes, which were dancing earlier in the moonlight, have slowly settled. They have landed on the floor, on the table, on the rim of the pitcher. A fine, invisible layer of Roman dust coats everything. It is the skin of the city, shedding and renewing itself every night. Aelia shifts. The dream of walking has triggered a reflex in her legs. Her right leg twitches. Jerk. Her foot kicks out slightly against the heavy wool. The movement disrupts the seal of the blanket at the bottom of the bed. A tiny gap opens up near her ankles. Cold air, waiting patiently on the floor, rushes in. It strikes her ankles like a snake bite. Cold. Aelia frowns in her sleep. Her brow furrows. The sensation enters her dream. The sun in the valley disappears. A cold wind blows across the aqueduct. She stops walking. She wraps her arms around herself in the dream. Cold, she whispers in the dream. In the bed, her body reacts automatically to repair the breach. She retracts her legs, pulling them up. She digs her heels into the mattress. Crunch. She pushes the blanket down with her feet, tucking the end back under her heels. The gap is closed. The cold air is trapped and quickly warmed by her skin. The crisis is over. Her brow smooths out. The sun returns to the aqueduct. She starts walking again. Step, step, step. She rolls over onto her stomach. This is a slow, luxurious movement. She pushes up with her shoulder. She rotates her hips. The mattress groans, creak. She flops onto her front, whump. She turns her head to the side, resting her cheek on the bolster. Her arms move up, sliding under the pillow. She hugs the bolster. It is a position of total surrender to gravity. She feels the pressure of the mattress against her chest, against her stomach, against her thighs. It feels grounding. She feels the beat of her heart against the mattress. Thump, thump. The sound travels through the straw, through the wood frame, and into the floor. She is beating the drum of the room. She breathes out, a long, heavy sigh into the pillow. The warm breath filters through the linen case and warms the feathers inside. She smells the scent of the pillow again. It smells of time. It smells of nights past. It is a familiar, friendly smell. Her mind drifts away from the aqueduct. The stone arches fade into the mist. The sound of the water fades. She enters a quiet, dark space. She thinks about the concept of the market, but not the noise or the people. She thinks about the vegetables. She visualizes a crate of cabbages, round, green, tightly packed leaves. She looks at the cabbages in her mind. She counts them. 1 cabbage, 2 cabbages, 3 cabbages. She imagines touching them, cool, waxy, squeaky. She visualizes a pile of onions. Yellow skins, papery. She imagines the sound of the skins rustling, crinkle. She visualizes a basket of turnips, purple and white, still covered in earth. She likes the turnips. They are solid. They are humble. She arranges the vegetables in her mind. Cabbages on the left, onions in the middle, turnips on the right. It is a mental pantry. She organizes it. She straightens the rows. She is tidying up her thoughts. Outside, the wind picks up again. It is the third watch wind, a colder, sharper breeze that comes deep in the night. It whistles through the narrow gap between the insula and the neighboring building. Wee you. It sounds like a flute played by a ghost. Aelia hears it. It incorporates into her sleep. She imagines she is in a field of tall grass. The wind is blowing the grass. Swish, swish. Waves of green grass rolling like the sea. She is lying in the grass, hidden. The wind blows over her. She is safe in the green tunnel. She feels the grass touching her arms, soft, ticklish. She likes the wind in the dream. It means fresh air. It means nature. But in the room, she stays warm. A tiny vibration travels through the wall. A shutter slams somewhere in the distance. Bang! It is a dull, wooden sound. Aelia does not wake. Her brain filters it out. Not a threat, it says. Just wood. She continues to lie in the grass. She feels a dryness in her nose. The air is very dry now. She sniffs gently. Sniff. She rubs her nose against the pillow. Rub, rub, creating friction to scratch an itch. She moves her mouth, chewing on nothing. Her jaw slides side to side. Grind. A tiny sound of teeth touching. Then she relaxes the jaw again. Her mouth falls open. A small bubble of saliva forms at the corner of her lips. She is in the deepest, most unglamorous, most restorative part of the night. She thinks about her hands. They feel heavy and large in her sleep. She imagines her hands are made of stone, marble hands, resting on the bed. She cannot move them. They are too heavy. She accepts this. I have stone hands, she thinks. That is fine. Stone hands do not need to sew. Stone hands do not need to cook. Stone hands just rest. She enjoys the heaviness. It anchors her to the bed. It prevents her from floating away into the ceiling. She listens to the silence of the room again. It has a rhythm. The silence pulses. Quiet, quiet, quiet. It is synchronized with the universe. She feels a profound sense of boredom, and it is beautiful. There is absolutely nothing happening. No news, no messengers, no fires, no parades, just Aelia in the dark. She luxuriates in the boredom. She wraps the boredom around her like a second blanket. It is soft and gray. She thinks about the olive tree, the one in the courtyard of her childhood home. She remembers the trunk, twisted, gray, ancient. She remembers the leaves, silvery green. She remembers the olives, black pearls hanging from the branches. She imagines sitting under the tree. The shade is cool. The ground is hard packed earth. Ants crawl on the ground. She watches the ants, a line of black dots, marching. 1 ant, 2 ants, 3 ants. They are carrying crumbs. She watches them for 100 years in the dream. Just watching ants, it is the ultimate peace. Her breathing catches for a second, a tiny pause in the rhythm, then it resumes. H-H-H-Chua. She rolls her head to the other side of the pillow, seeking the cool spot again. She finds it. Ah, the cheek cools down. The heat dissipates into the linen. She sighs again. It is a conversation between her body and the bed. I am hot, says the body. I am cool, says the pillow. Thank you, says the body. The room is slowly, imperceptibly getting darker. Or perhaps her eyes are just getting more tired. The gray squares of the window seem to have vanished. The darkness is a solid block. Aelia is trapped in amber, but she does not want to escape. She wants to stay here. She wants the night to last for a week. She wants to sleep until the wars are over, until the harvest is done, until the clothes wash themselves. She wants to be a sleeper by profession. She feels a cramp in her toe, the second toe on her left foot. It curls painfully. Ouch! The signal reaches her brain. She wakes up slightly, just a fraction. She flexes her foot. She pushes the heel down. She spreads the toes. The cramp fights back. She holds the stretch. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. The muscle relaxes. The pain fades into a dull ache, then disappears. She wiggles the toe. It works. She sighs. Crisis averted. She drifts back down through the layers of consciousness. Past the ants, past the grass, past the aqueduct, into the void. She thinks about the color blue. Deep Roman blue, the color of the night sky before the stars come out, the color of the sea at Ostia. She paints her mind with this color. She dips a brush into a pot of blue paint. She paints the inside of her skull blue. It is cooling. It is vast. She floats in the blue. She is a cloud in a blue sky, drifting, changing shape, dissolving. Silence of the insula is broken by a faint sound from the stairs. A cat or a rat, something scampers up the wooden steps. Thump, thump, thump. Fast, light, then silence. Aelia hears it, but it does not wake her. It is just part of the house's soundtrack. The house is alive, she thinks dreamily. The house has feet. She accepts the feet. They are not coming for her. They are going somewhere else. She is safe behind her door, safe behind her lock, safe behind her husband's reputation. She is Aelia. She is asleep. She swallows again, the throat is moist. The body is functioning perfectly. She feels a sense of gratitude to her body. Good body, she thinks. Keep breathing, keep sleeping. She pats her own stomach in her sleep, a tiny, comforting gesture. Then her hand falls back to the mattress. Limp, heavy, gone. The night stretches on. There is no sign of dawn. The sun is hours away. The world belongs to the sleepers. Aelia is the queen of the sleepers. She lies on her throne of straw, wrapped in her robe of wool, ruling over a kingdom of nothing, and she is happy, quietly, boringly, deeply happy. The night has settled into a deep, impenetrable gravity. It is the hour when the stones of the city seem to exhale the last of the day's memories, leaving behind only the cold, hard fact of their existence. The insula is no longer a building made of separate rooms and separate lives. It has fused into a single, silent monolith of brick and timber, standing guard against the emptiness of the dark. Aelia lies submerged in the center of this monolith. She has not moved for a long time. The heavy red wool blanket has stopped settling. It has found its final shape, draping over her hip and shoulder like a terrain map of a sleeping giant. The air inside her cocoon is stable, humid, and scented with the faint, comforting smell of lavender and warm skin. She is dreaming, and in this dream there is no sky, no ground, only a task. She is standing before a vertical loom, a warp-weighted loom tall and wooden. The warp threads hang down, weighted at the bottom by clay loom weights. They are perfectly straight, white lines against the darkness of the dream. Aelia is weaving. She holds the shuttle in her right hand. It is smooth, polished wood, shaped like a small boat. She passes it through the shed, the space between the threads. Slide. It moves effortlessly, frictionless. She catches it with her left hand. She pulls the weft thread through. Then she reaches up with the wooden sword, the beater. She pushes the new thread up against the old fabric. Thump. It is a soft, satisfying sound, the sound of closure. Slide, catch, thump, slide, catch, thump. She's weaving nothing in particular. Not a tunic, not a cloak, just infinite white cloth. She watches the fabric grow, row by row, millimeter by millimeter. It is a dream of pure progress. There are no mistakes, no broken threads. No knots, just the rhythm. The weights at the bottom of the loom swing gently with every beat. Clink, clink, the sound of clay hitting clay. Aelia finds this sound immensely soothing. It is the heartbeat of her work. She weaves for an hour in the dream, or maybe a minute. Time does not exist here. Only the weave exists. Up, down, slide, thump. The real room, the darkness is total. The moon has traveled further west, leaving the window grate as just a faintly lighter shade of black against the absolute black of the wall. A sound disturbs the silence. It comes from the corner of the room near the ceiling. A tiny, rhythmic sound. Plip, pause, plip. It is a drop of condensation falling from a cold beam onto the stone floor, or perhaps onto a wooden shelf. Aelia stirs. Her ear, pressed against the bolster, picks up the vibration. Sound enters her dream. The loom weights stop clinking. Instead, water starts to drip onto the white fabric. Plip, a wet spot appears. Plip, another wet spot. Aelia stops weaving. She looks at the water. She is not angry. In the dream, she simply accepts it. Water, she thinks, clean water. She watches the drops fall. They are silver. They turn the cloth into a river. The loom dissolves. The shuttle dissolves. She is left standing by a slow, dripping stream in a cave. It is cool. It is dark. She sits down by the stream. She listens. Plip, plip, plip. She rolls over in the bed. The movement is slow, like a seal turning in water. She moves from her stomach to her right side. The bolster feels too warm against her cheek. She needs a fresh surface. She pushes the bolster up with her hand. Punch. She slides her head down to the lower part of the pillow. It is cool. Ah! The sensation of the cool linen against her hot skin is a physical pleasure so intense it almost wakes her. She sighs, a long, shuddering breath that empties her lungs completely. She pulls the blanket up over her ear again. She creates a seal against the dripping sound. The plip becomes muffled, distant. It fades into the background noise of her own pulse. Whoosh, whoosh. She thinks about the concept of the key, the iron key to the door. It is hanging on a peg by the entrance. She visualizes it, iron, heavy, complex teeth. She imagines taking the key down. She imagines the weight of it in her hand, cold metal. She imagines putting it in the lock, click, turning it, clack, locking the world out, locking the piece in. She does this mentally over and over. Lock, unlock, lock, unlock. It is a mechanism of safety. She confirms to herself the door is locked. The key is hanging. I am here. Her mind drifts to the jar of honey in the cupboard. She imagines the honey. Amber, thick, sweet. She imagines dipping a spoon into it. The honey trails off the spoon, a long, golden thread. It folds over itself in the jar. She watches the honey fold, slowly, viscous. It takes a long time for the surface to settle flat again. She waits for it. She watches the bubbles rise in the honey, tiny air bubbles moving upward at the speed of a glacier. One bubble, two bubbles, they reach the surface. Pop. Silent, she feels like the honey, slow, sweet, heavy, stuck in the jar of the room. She feels a draft on her shoulder. The blanket has slipped slightly during her roll. The tip of her shoulder is exposed to the room air. It feels like a block of ice is touching her skin. Aelia frowns in her sleep. She tries to shrug the blanket back up without using her hands. She wiggles her shoulder. Shimmy, it doesn't work. The wool is too heavy. She has to use her hand. Reluctantly, she extracts her hand from the warmth. It enters the cold zone. She grabs the edge of the blanket. She pulls. Tug. She tucks it under her chin. She tucks it behind her back. She is swaddled again. Her hand retreats back to her chest. It feels cold now. She tucks it under her other armpit, seeking heat. She holds it there. The warmth returns. She relaxes. She thinks about the floor tiles again, but this time she imagines cleaning them. She imagines a bucket of water and a rag. She is on her knees. She is scrubbing. Scrub, scrub. The gray stone turns dark with water. She washes away the dust. She washes away the footprints. She creates a clean, wet path across the room. She watches the stone dry. The water evaporates. The gray color returns, but lighter, cleaner. It is a boring, repetitive task, and she loves it in the dream because it is simple. Because it has a beginning and an end. She scrubs the whole room in her mind, corner to corner, leaving no dust. Outside, the city is quieter than it has ever been. The wind has died completely. The air is motionless. Aelia feels the stillness. It presses against the walls. It feels like the whole world is holding its breath. She holds her breath too, just for a moment, testing the silence. Then she exhales. Hua, she is the only thing breathing in the universe, or so it feels. She feels a sensation in her hair. The braid is twisted under her neck. It is a lump, uncomfortable. She reaches back. She lifts her head slightly. She pulls the braid out. She lays it over her shoulder, down her front. It rests on her chest like a sleeping snake. She strokes the end of the braid with her thumb. The hair is soft. She plays with the ribbon at the end, twisting it, untwisting it. It is a tiny fidget, a way to discharge the last atoms of energy in her body. Then her hand stops. It falls limp, resting on the braid. She drifts deeper, into the Nile, the nothingness, the place where there are no looms, no keys, no honey, just gray, soft, warm gray fog. She floats in the fog. She is weightless. She is shapeless. She is just a consciousness suspended in peace. She likes the fog. It muffles everything. It hides everything. She wraps the fog around her shoulders. She breathes the fog. It tastes of sleep. Suddenly, a dog barks, far away, miles away, near the river. Woof, it is a tiny sound, barely a scratch on the silence. Aelia hears it, but she does not wake. She incorporates it. In the fog, she sees a dog, a gray dog made of mist. It looks at her. It does not bark. It wags its tail once. Then it dissolves back into the fog. Good dog, she thinks. Go to sleep. She feels the weight of the darkness pressing on her eyelids. Even though they are closed, she feels the lack of light. It is a heavy, comforting pressure, like a hand covering her eyes. Rest, the darkness says. Do not look. There is nothing to see. She obeys. She keeps her eyes shut tight. She inspects the inside of her eyelids. She sees a faint purple swirl. It rotates slowly, clockwise. She watches the swirl. It is her own personal galaxy, spinning in the dark. She gets lost in the purple. It is deep. It is endless. She thinks about the morning, the inevitable return of the sun, the matutinum. She imagines the rooster crowing. She imagines the carts starting to roll, the water sellers shouting. The thought makes her tired. It feels too loud, too bright. She pushes the morning away. Not yet, she whispers to the universe. Give me more night. Give me more stone. She clings to the shadow. She burrows deeper into the mattress, hiding from the dawn. She feels the texture of the linen sheet against her toes. It is warmed up now. It is no longer cool. It is the same temperature as her blood. She cannot tell where her foot ends and the sheet begins. The boundary has dissolved. She is melting into the bed. She is becoming part of the furniture. Aelia the bed, Aelia the blanket. It is a peaceful transformation, to be an object, to just lie there, to serve no purpose but to exist. She listens to the rhythm of the insula one last time. Tick, a brick cooling, creak, a timber settling, hiss, the wind returning gently. It is the music of home. She knows the song by heart. She hums along in her silence, a song of safety, a song of sleep. Her breathing deepens. The gap between breaths gets longer. In, pause, out, in, pause, out. She is a diver holding her breath underwater, swimming through the caves of sleep. She goes down, 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 into the perfect, boring, beautiful dark. The night has reached a point of deep, suspended animation. The concept of time has dissolved within the walls of the insula. There is no past and there is no future. There is only the eternal present of the dark room, the cold stone floor, and the warm bed. The silence is no longer emptiness. It has weight and texture, pressing against the eardrums like a soft, heavy fluid. Aelia lies submerged in this fluid. She has become an island of heat in a sea of cool air. Her body is curled into a tight, defensive shape, preserving the warmth she has generated over the last few hours. The red wool blanket is pulled up high, covering her ear, leaving only a small crescent of her face exposed to the room. Her breathing is shallow and rhythmic, a metronome keeping time for a sleeping world. She is dreaming. It is a dream of clay. In the dream, she is in a potter's workshop. The air smells of damp earth and wood smoke. The light is dim, filtered through high, dusty windows. She is watching a potter's wheel spin. It is a heavy stone flywheel, kicked into motion by a foot. Kick, spin, kick, spin. The wheel turns with a low, humming vibration. Whirr. Aelia watches the clay on the wheel. It is a gray, shapeless lump. She places her hands on it in the dream. The clay is cold and wet. It is slippery against her palms. She centers the clay. She pushes down. The lump flattens. It widens. She pulls up the walls, slowly, gently. A cylinder of gray mud rises from the spinning wheel. She watches the walls get thinner. She watches the rim become even. It is a hypnotic process. The wheel spins, round and round. The clay turns, round and round. There is no sound but the whir of the stone and the wet slap of her hands on the mud. She makes a bowl, then she collapses it. Squish. She starts again. She makes another bowl. Round, perfect, gray. She collapses it. It is a cycle of creation and destruction that means nothing and everything. It is just movement. It is just earth. Real room, a tiny change occurs. The temperature drops another fraction of a degree. The oil in the lamp, now cold and congealed, settles slightly in its reservoir. The wooden beams of the ceiling contract. Crack. A sharp, dry sound echoes in the room. It sounds like a knuckle cracking. Aelia stirs. The sound pierces the dream of the pottery. The wheel stops spinning. The clay freezes. Aelia opens her eyes, just a slit. She sees nothing but the darkness. Her brain registers the sound. Wood, it whispers. Just wood. The house is shrinking. She accepts this. She closes her eyes again. She feels a heaviness in her right shoulder. She has been lying on it for too long. The joint is compressed. The blood flow is restricted. It is a dull, throbbing ache. She needs to move, but moving is an ordeal. It requires breaking the seal of the blanket. It requires muscle energy. She procrastinates. She tries to ignore the shoulder. She focuses on her toes instead. Her toes are warm. They are happy. She focuses on her breathing in, out, but the shoulder persists. It complains. Move, it says. Move now, Aelia sighs, HNNNGH. She prepares for the maneuver. She lifts her head off the bolster. She pushes with her heels against the mattress. She rolls onto her back, floop. The breath leaves her lungs in a rush. She lies flat. The pressure on the shoulder is released. Blood rushes back into the capillaries. A wave of warmth spreads through the joint. Ah, relief. Now she is staring at the ceiling again. She cannot see it, but she knows it is there. She imagines the beams, heavy oak, dark with age. She counts them in her memory. 1 beam over the door, 1 beam over the table, 1 beam over the bed, 3 beams holding up the floor of the neighbor above. She wonders if the beams are tired. Do they get tired of holding up the world? Do they want to lie down too? Stay up, she thinks at the ceiling. Do not rest. I will rest for both of us. She places her hands on her stomach. She feels the fabric of her night tunic. It is bunched up slightly. She smooths it down with her palms. Brush. Brush, the linen feels cool. Her hands feel hot. She leaves her hands there, interlaced over her navel. It is a stable position, symmetrical, balanced. She thinks about the sea. She has seen the sea only twice, once as a child traveling to Ostia. She remembers the sound, the endless rhythmic crashing of the waves against the shore. Crash, hiss, crash, hiss. She tries to replicate that sound in her head. She synchronizes it with her breathing. Inhale, the wave pulls back. Hiss, exhale, the wave crashes. Whoosh. She imagines she is a pebble on the beach, rolling in the surf. Forward, back, back. The water is cold and salty. It washes over her. It is a cleaning sensation. She feels the salt on her skin in the dream memory. She feels the sun on her back. She drifts on the tide. Her mouth is dry again. She moves her tongue against the roof of her mouth. It feels like dry leather rubbing against dry leather. She gathers a tiny amount of saliva. She swallows. Gulp. It helps a little. She thinks about the lemon tree in the neighbor's garden. She imagines biting into a lemon, the sour juice. Her mouth waters instinctively. A biological trick. She swallows again. Better. She feels a draft on her feet. The blanket has pulled up during her roll. Her ankles are exposed to the room air. The cold attacks immediately. It wraps around her ankles like icy manacles. Aelia shivers. She performs the caterpillar maneuver. She cannot use her hands. They are too warm and comfortable. She uses her feet. She digs her heels into the mattress. She scoots her body down the bed. Inch by inch. Scoot. Scoot. She slides deeper into the wool cave. Her feet disappear under the hem of the blanket. They find a pocket of warm air. She holds them there. She is safe again. The fortress is secure. She listens to the silence of the city. It is deeper now than before. The vigils are gone. The carts are gone. The wind is gone. There is absolutely nothing. It is a vacuum of sound. Aelia strains her ears. Is there anything? A cricket? No. A bird? No. Just the ringing in her own ears. A high-pitched tone. Ee. The sound of the nervous system idling. She focuses on the tone. It changes pitch. It goes lower. Ooh. It is a drone. She uses it as a meditation anchor. She rides the drone into the dark. She thinks about the concept of nothing. Niall, what is nothing? Is it the space between the stars? Is it the space inside the jar when the wine is gone? Is it the sleep without dreams? She wants the nothing. She craves the nothing. She invites the nothing into the room. Come here, nothing, she thinks. Sit on the chair. Lie on the floor. Fill the room. She imagines the nothing as a thick gray smoke. It fills the corners. It covers the table. It covers the lamp. It covers her. She is buried in nothing. It is heavy and soft. She feels a twitch in her eyelid, her left eye, flutter, a tiny muscle spasm. It feels like a butterfly wing beating against her eyeball. She presses her face into the bolster, applying pressure to the eye. The fluttering stops. She keeps the pressure there. It feels good, a heavy, dull pressure. It pushes the world away. She drifts back into the pottery dream, but now the wheel is gone. There is just the clay, a huge mound of gray clay. She is sinking into it. It is soft and cool. It conforms to her body. It holds her up. She is lying in a bed of mud. It sounds dirty, but in the dream it is clean. It is the earth itself hugging her. She feels the weight of the clay on her legs, on her arms. It is the heaviest blanket of all. She sleeps in the mud, peaceful, silent, ancient. A sound comes from outside, a very faint rustle. A leaf blowing across the stones of the courtyard. Scritch, scritch, it stops, then scritch, then silence. Aelia hears it. She wonders briefly what kind of leaf it is. Oak, vine, it doesn't matter. It is a dead leaf traveling in the dark. She feels a kinship with the leaf. She is traveling too, drifting across the surface of the night. She feels the texture of the sheet under her hand. She scratches it with her fingernail. ZZZZT, a tiny sound. She does it again, ZZZZT, checking that she is still real, checking that the bed is still there. It is. She stops. She lets her hand go limp. The fingers curl, relaxed, useless. She thinks about her husband's shield, the scutum, the big rectangular shield, red and gold. She imagines it leaning against a wall in a tent far away. Is it cold? Yes, it must be freezing. She imagines the painted wings on the shield. Do they fly at night? No, they are wood and paint. They stay still, just like her. She is the shield of the house. She stays still. She guards the room with her presence. The darkness seems to press closer. It is pressing against her eyelids. She sees shapes, gray squares, black circles. They pulse slowly, like a heartbeat. Expand, contract, expand, contract. She watches the show. It is boring. It is repetitive. It is perfect for sleep. She swallows again, a dry click in her throat. Kalik, she sighs. She is waiting for the morning, but she is also dreading it. Morning means work. Morning means noise. Night means this beautiful, empty stillness. She hoards the stillness. She gathers it in her arms. She holds it tight. She feels the beat of her own heart. Thump, thump, it is slower now, so slow. It waits a long time between beats. She wonders if it will stop, but then, thump, it continues, faithful, tireless. She thanks her heart. Good muscle, she thinks. Keep beating. I will sleep. She sinks, she drifts. She is a stone falling down a well. Falling, 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 past the bricks, past the water, into the dark earth, into the sleep of the Romans. Quiet, deep, boring rest. The night has advanced into the Gallicinium, the time of the cock crow, though no rooster in the city has yet dared to break the silence. The darkness inside the insula has thickened, becoming a physical substance that fills every corner, every crevice, and every fold of cloth. It is a darkness that feels ancient, as if it has been trapped between these brick walls since the days of the Republic. Aelia lies in the exact center of her bed. She has not moved for 20 minutes. She has become a statue of sleep, carved from flesh and wrapped in wool. Her breathing is the only clock in the room, measuring out the passing of the night in slow, rhythmic intervals. Inhale. Pause, exhale, pause. It is a steady hydraulic sound, like the ocean breathing against a distant shore. The air in the room has grown colder still. The warmth of the previous day is a distant memory, erased by the relentless chill of the stone floor and the plaster walls. The room is now a refrigerator of masonry. But inside the bed, Aelia has constructed a fortress of heat. The heavy red wool blanket, tucking in around her shoulders and hips, acts as a seal. Underneath, the air is tropical, humid with her breath and the warmth of her skin. It smells of her, of lavender soap, of unbleached linen, and of the faint, musky scent of sleep. She is dreaming. The dream of the sorting is gone. The dream of the pottery is gone. Now she is dreaming of an olive grove. It is late autumn in the dream. The light is golden and low, casting long shadows across the dry, cracked earth. She's standing under an ancient olive tree. Its trunk is twisted and gnarled, looking like solidified gray lava. The bark is rough against her hand. She's holding a long wooden pole. She reaches up and taps a branch. Tap. A shower of olives falls to the ground. Plop, plop. Plip, plop. They are black and shiny, hitting the canvas sheets spread out on the grass. Aelia watches them fall. It is a rain of fruit. She taps another branch. Tap. More olives fall. She's not in a hurry. She's not tired. She's simply the agent of the harvest. She bends down to gather the olives. She picks them up by the handful. They are cool and oily. She puts them in a basket. The basket fills up. Slow, steady. She smells the olives, a sharp, green, bitter smell. She smells the dust of the grove. It is a dream of abundance and repetition. Tap, fall, gather. Tap, fall, gather. There is no sound in the dream but the gentle thud of the olives hitting the earth. It is a percussion of peace. In the real room, a small disturbance occurs. The wind outside shifts direction. It comes down from the north now, from the mountains, carrying a heavier chill. It pushes against the window shutter. The wooden bolt holds firm, but the shutter rattles slightly in its frame. Rattle-tink. It is a quiet sound, like a skeleton finger tapping on wood. Aelia stirs. The sound penetrates the wool, penetrates her ear, penetrates the dream. In the olive grove, a wind blows through the branches. The leaves rustle. Shhhhshhh. Aelia shivers in the dream. Then she shivers in the bed. A tiny tremor runs down her spine. Her body reacts automatically. She curls tighter. She pulls her knees up higher, almost touching her chest. She becomes a ball. She buries her nose deeper into the bolster. The bolster smells of dried rosemary. She placed a sprig inside the pillowcase months ago. The scent is faint now, just a ghost of an herb, but the movement releases a fresh molecule of smell. Aelia breathes it in. Sniff, rosemary, the smell of memory, the smell of the kitchen. It is a grounding scent. She sighs into the pillow. The rattle of the shutter fades into the background. The olive grove fades. The darkness returns. She rolls onto her back. This is a slow, tectonic movement. She pushes with her heels. She lifts her hips. The straw mattress crunches loudly in the silent room. Crinkle, crunch, rustle, she flops onto her back. The blanket settles over her like a parachute landing. She stares up at the invisible ceiling. Her eyes are closed, but her mind is active in a low-level, ambient way. She feels the texture of the linen sheet against her legs. The sheet is old. It has been washed 100 times. It is soft, almost silky, but it still has the slight nubby texture of flax. She slides her leg across the sheet. Swish. She seeks a cool spot. The center of the bed is warm, but the edges are cold. She extends her foot to the far corner of the mattress. She finds a patch of uninhabited linen. It is freezing. Oh, it sends a shockwave of cold up her leg, but it is a pleasant shock. A refreshing shock. She leaves her foot there, cooling her blood. She imagines she is dipping her foot into a mountain stream. Cold, clear, rushing water. She holds it there until the sheet warms up. Then she moves her foot back to the center. Thermal regulation complete. She thinks about the concept of the amphora, the clay jars stored in the cellar of the building. She imagines them, rows of tall, pointed jars, filled with wine, filled with oil, filled with grain. She imagines the darkness inside the jars. Is it the same darkness as the room? She decides it is darker. The darkness of the jar is ancient. It has been there since the potter sealed it. She feels a kinship with the wine in the jar. She is sealed in her room, waiting, aging, resting. She imagines she is liquid. She pours herself into the mattress. She fills the shape of the bed. Liquid Aelia, heavy, still. She hears a sound from the floor above. A heavy thud. Thump, someone has dropped something. A shoe, a book, then silence. Aelia wonders who is awake. Is it the scholar? Is it the baker? She imagines the baker waking up, lighting his oven. She imagines the smell of yeast, but the smell is not here. Here there is only rosemary and dust. She dismisses the baker. She returns to her own silence. Her hand resting on her stomach feels heavy. It feels like it belongs to a statue. She tries to lift a finger, the index finger. It rises slowly, trembling slightly. It feels disconnected from her will, a mechanical lever. She drops it. Plop, it hits the mattress. She abandons control. Sleep hand, she thinks. You have sewn enough. You have washed enough. Just be a hand. She drifts into a state of hypnagogia, the borderland between wakefulness and sleep. She sees images, geometric shapes, a red triangle, a blue circle. They float in the dark. They merge, they separate. She sees a face, a stranger's face, a man with a beard. He looks at her kindly. Then he dissolves into smoke. She sees a horse, a white horse galloping in slow motion. It makes no sound. Its hooves hit the ground, but there is no thunder. It runs through the air. She watches the horse. It is beautiful. It is tireless. She rides the horse in her mind, galloping into the void. She feels a tickle in her throat, a dry spot. She tries to ignore it. She swallows. Gulp, it clicks. The tickle persists. She coughs just once, a small, dry cough. The sound is startlingly loud. It echoes off the stone walls. It breaks the spell of the silence. Aelia freezes. She listens. Did she wake the neighbors? Did she wake the gods? She waits. The silence rushes back in to fill the void left by the cough. It heals the wound in the air. Nothing moves. No one shouts. She is safe. She clears her throat gently. HRRRM. She settles back down. She thinks about the wool blanket again. She traces the origin of the wool in her mind. She imagines the sheep, standing on a hillside in Italy, chewing grass, munch, munch, the wind blowing their fleece. She imagines the shearing, the scissors, snip, snip, the wool falling away. She imagines the spinning wheel, whir, the loom, clack, clack, the dye pot, red madder root bubbling in hot water. She imagines the smell of the wet wool. She feels connected to the history of the blanket. It is not just a cover, it is a story, a boring, practical story of labor and warmth. She pulls the story up to her chin. She wraps herself in the labor of others. It feels protective. The room is settling again. A timber in the roof groans. A low, long sound, thermal contraction. The wood is shrinking in the cold. Aelia incorporates the sound into her sleep. It becomes the sound of a ship's hull. She is on a ship, a grain ship crossing the Mediterranean. The wood creaks as the ship rolls on the waves. Creak, splash, creak, splash. She is lying in the hold, surrounded by sacks of wheat. The smell of the sea is faint. The motion is gentle, rocking her, rocking her. She likes the ship dream. It is mobile but passive. She is going somewhere, but she doesn't have to walk. She floats on the Roman sea. She feels a pressure in her hip. The mattress is too hard in that one spot. The straw has parted, leaving her hip bone pressing against a slat of the bed frame. It is a dull pain. She needs to fix it. She performs a micro-adjustment. She lifts her hip. She reaches down with her hand under her body. She smooths the straw. Rustle, rustle. She fluffs it up. She puts her hand back. She lowers her hip. Better. Softness is restored. She sighs. Ha. The pursuit of comfort is the only work of the night. She thinks about the concept of the wall, the city wall of Rome. She imagines it standing guard miles away. Stone blocks, towers, gates. She imagines the sentries walking on top. Are they cold? Yes. Are they tired? Yes. She feels a moment of pity for the sentries. They are awake so she can sleep. She thanks them in her mind. Guard the wall, she whispers to the dark. I will guard the bed. It is a fair division of labor. She feels the darkness pressing against her eyes. It is a heavy velvet weight. She sees purple swirls again. Phosphenes, they dance, they spin. She watches them. It is the cinema of the eyelids, no plot, just color. She finds it soothing, like watching clouds or smoke. Her breathing slows down even further. The gap between the inhale and exhale stretches. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, silence. Then, inhale, she is sipping the air. She is sipping the night. She is a diver at the bottom of the ocean, conserving oxygen. She is almost in hibernation. She thinks about the floor again, the cold, gray stones. She imagines they are ice. She imagines the whole room is an ice cave, but she is the fire. She is the ember in the ash. She glows. She radiates heat. She keeps the ice at bay. It is a cozy image. Fire and ice, wool and stone, life and sleep. She drifts deeper. The ship fades. The sheep fade. The olive grove fades. There is only the gray mist of the deep sleep. She floats in the mist. She turns slowly, weightless, nameless. She is just a breathing object in a Roman room, waiting for the sun, but hoping it never comes. She loves the dark too much. She loves the quiet too much. She sleeps. And the night continues, indifferent and endless. The night has now entered the deepest part of the Quarta Vigilia, the fourth watch. This is the stretch of time that tests the endurance of the sentries on the walls and the sleepers in their beds. It is the hour when the earth seems to stop spinning, hanging motionless in the void of the universe. The city of Rome is no longer a collection of people. It is a landscape of stone and shadow, cold and indifferent. In the insula, the temperature has reached its absolute minimum. The brick walls have radiated away the last joule of heat stored from the sun. The air inside Aelia's room is crisp, almost sharp. If there were a bowl of water on the floor, a thin skin of ice might begin to form on its surface. But Aelia is not cold. She is the master of her own thermal destiny. Deep inside the nest of the bed, she is maintaining a steady, tropical warmth. She is dreaming. The dream of the olive grove has faded, dissolving into the mist. Now she is dreaming of stone, heavy white stone. She is in a quarry, the marble quarry at Carrara. She sees a massive block of white marble. It is a perfect cube cut from the mountain. It sits on wooden rollers. She is not moving it. She is watching it being moved by invisible forces. slowly, very slowly. The rollers turn, crunch, grind. The wood groans under the immense weight. The stone moves forward an inch. Then another inch. It is a dream of mass and gravity. Aelia feels the weight of the stone in her own bones. She feels solid, dense, immovable. She watches the white cube slide across the dusty ground. There is no sound of voices, no whips cracking, just the friction of the wood in the stone. Grind, roll, roll. It is a boring spectacle, and Aelia loves it. It confirms that the world is heavy, that the world is stable. She leans against the marble block in the dream. It is cool and smooth. She presses her cheek against the stone. It feels like the cool side of the pillow. In the real room, the silence is so thick it feels like pressure in the ears. Aelia shifts her head. The bolster is compressed under her weight. The feathers inside have been crushed into a dense mat. She lifts her head slightly. She punches the pillow. Whump, a soft, muffled sound. She fluffs it. She lays her head back down. The feathers realign. The softness is restored. She sighs, h-h-h-ua, a sound of satisfaction. She feels a sensation in her left foot. It is itching. The wool blanket is scratching the sole of her foot. The nerve endings fire. Itch, they signal. Aelia considers the signal in her sleep. To scratch it would require moving her other foot. It would require energy. Is it worth it? She decides to wait. She focuses on the itch. She imagines it is a fly. She imagines the fly flying away. The sensation fades. Mind over matter. The foot relaxes. She thinks about the concept of dust. The room is full of it. Invisible particles floating in the stagnant air. She imagines the dust falling, like snow, settling on the floor, settling on the table, settling on the lamp. She imagines a layer of gray velvet covering the world, soft, quiet, muffling everything. She imagines being covered in dust, like a statue in an abandoned temple. She does not mind. Statues do not have to cook. Statues do not have to worry. They just stand there. Beautiful and still. The air in the room is stale. It has been breathed in and out for hours. Carbon dioxide levels are slightly higher near the bed. This acts as a natural sedative. Aelia takes a deep breath. In, she pulls the air in through her nose. It feels dry. It dries out her nasal passages. Out, she expels the air through her mouth. A warm, humid cloud. She is humidifying her own tent, creating a microclimate of moisture under the wool. She drifts away from the marble quarry. The white stone fades into gray fog. She finds herself in a new dreamscape. She is in a bathhouse, the thermi, but it is empty. She is in the tepidarium, the warm room. The walls are heated. The floor is heated. Steam rises from the vents. Hiss. It is warm and misty. She sits on a bench. She looks at the vaulted ceiling. Condensation drips from the ceiling. Plip, plop. She watches the drops fall into the warm pools below. She feels the humidity on her skin. It soothes her dry throat. She breathes the steam. It tastes of minerals and heat. She is wrapped in a cloud of warm water. She closes her eyes in the dream. She is melting, turning into water, flowing into the drain, joining the river. Back in the bed, her hand twitches. Her fingers drum against her thigh. Tap, tap, a phantom rhythm. Maybe she is playing a lyre in a deeper dream layer. Or maybe it is just a nerve discharging. She stops. The hand goes limp again. Dead weight. She hears a sound from the street. A shutter banging in the wind. No, there is no wind. It is a cat knocking over a pot. Crash, far away. Aelia stirs. The sound is sharp. Danger, her brain asks. No, her logic replies. Distance. Just a pot. Sleep. She accepts the explanation. She sinks back down. She thinks about her hair. The braid is lying across her chest. It feels like a heavy rope. She wonders if she should cut it. Short hair would be easier, like a boy. But no, her husband likes the long hair. She remembers him brushing it. Long strokes. Brush, brush. The memory is pleasant. It makes her feel safe. He is guarding her hair, even from far away. She feels a hollowness in her stomach. The hunger is back, but it is a sleepy hunger. She imagines eating a fig, a dried fig, sticky, sweet, crunchy seeds. She chews the imaginary fig. Her jaw moves slightly. Chew, chew. She tastes the phantom sugar. It satisfies her mind, if not her body. She swallows. Gulp. The darkness in the room is absolute. If she opened her eyes, she would see nothing. She keeps them closed. Why look at nothing? Better to look at the dream. She summons the image of a candle, a beeswax candle, tall and yellow, burning with a steady flame. She focuses on the flame, the blue center, the yellow tip. She watches the wax melt, running down the side of the candle. Drip, drip. The wax hardens instantly, layer upon layer of wax tears. She watches the candle burn down, inch by inch. It takes a long time. She has time. She watches until the flame flickers and dies, leaving a trail of smoke. Poof. She feels a stiffness in her neck. The angle of her head is slightly off. She needs to rotate her chin. She lifts her head. She turns it to the left. Crack. A tiny pop in the vertebrae. She lowers her head. The alignment is corrected. The flow of energy is restored. She sighs. Aelia. Comfort is a constant negotiation with gravity. She thinks about the wool of the blanket again. It is scratchy. She wonders how many sheep are in this blanket. 5, 10. She imagines a flock of sheep huddled together, creating a wall of wool. She is huddled with them. She is a sheep. She bleats softly in her mind. Bah, it is a funny thought. She smiles in the dark, a tiny invisible smile. Then her face relaxes. The smile falls away. Gravity pulls her cheeks down. She returns to the neutral mask of sleep. She listens to the room. The silence is not empty. It is full of pressure. It presses against the walls. It presses against her ears. She feels like she is underwater, deep underwater, where the light does not reach. She is a fish, a sleeping fish, hovering in the dark current. Her gills move slowly. Open, close, she floats, suspended, weightless. She feels a draft on her back. The blanket has slipped a fraction of an inch. The cold air touches her spine. It feels like an ice finger drawing a line down her back. She shivers. Brrr. She arches her back. She reaches behind her with her hand. She grabs the blanket. She pulls it up. She tucks it in tight, blocking the ice finger. The warmth returns. She sighs, victory. She thinks about the concept of the morning. It is coming, inexorable, like the marble block. She cannot stop it, but she can delay acknowledging it. She refuses to look for the light. She refuses to listen for the birds. She stays in the night. She builds a wall against the dawn, a wall of sleep, a wall of dreams. She dreams of a basket, a wicker basket. She is weaving it, bending the willow branches, in and out, over and under. Her hands are strong. The wood is pliable. She weaves a perfect circle, round and round. The basket grows. It is a container for nothing. She finishes the rim. She looks at the empty basket. It is beautiful. It is ready to hold the day, but for now it holds only air. Her breathing deepens. The rhythm becomes slower. Chua. She is a machine of rest, converting darkness into energy, converting silence into peace. She feels the heaviness of her own skeleton. Her bones feel like lead pipes, lying on the mattress. She cannot lift them. She does not want to lift them. She leaves them there. Let gravity have them. She is just the ghost inhabiting the machine, and the ghost is tired. She thinks about the river Tiber, flowing through the city, dark, muddy, powerful. She imagines the water moving under the bridges, swirling around the piers. It never stops, even at night. The river works. She respects the river. Flow on, river, she thinks. Carry the mud to the sea. I will stay here. She drifts deeper, into the Nile, the place where there are no thoughts, only existence. She is a point of consciousness in a vast void. She is not Aelia. She is not a wife. She is just being. It is peaceful. It is boring. It is perfect. She swallows a dry click. She licks her lips. They are chapped. She ignores it. Sleep is more important than hydration. She sinks. She fades. She is gone. The room holds her, the stone box, the cold air, the warm bed. It is a perfect system. Aelia is the battery, charging, almost full, but not yet. She needs more time, more darkness, more silence. She sleeps, and the night waits with her. The night has entered a phase of static equilibrium. The insula is a ship becalmed in a dark ocean. There is no wind to rattle the shutters, no traffic to shake the foundations, and no voices to penetrate the walls. The silence is absolute, a heavy, thick curtain that hangs over the bed, dampening even the sound of Aelia's breathing. Inside the room, the temperature has stabilized at its lowest point. The stone walls have reached thermal equilibrium with the night air outside. The room is a cold box, but within the bed, Aelia maintains her fortress. She is a generator of warmth, a biological furnace burning slowly through the night. The air under the red wool blanket is tropical, heavy with humidity and the scent of sleep. She is dreaming. The dream of the marble quarry has shifted. The heavy white stone has transformed. Now she is dreaming of a mill, a flour mill. She is standing in a large, dusty room. The air is filled with fine white powder. It floats in shafts of sunlight. In the center of the room is a large circular millstone. It is made of gray volcanic rock, pitted and rough. It is turning, grind, slowly, heavily. Aelia watches the grain being poured into the funnel at the top, golden wheat kernels. They disappear into the hole, and out of the sides comes the flour, soft, white, falling like snow. She watches the flour pile up. It forms a perfect cone on the floor. She reaches out and touches the flour in the dream. It is soft as silk. It is cool. She rubs it between her fingers. Rub. It is a tactile dream. The roughness of the stone against the softness of the flour. Grind, sifting. The rhythm of the millstone matches the rhythm of her blood. It is a dream of transformation. Hard grain becoming soft food, she watches the pile grow, higher and higher, buried in whiteness. In the real room, Aelia's body sends a distress signal. Her left arm, tucked under her body for the last hour, has lost circulation. The weight of her torso has compressed the nerves. The arm has gone to sleep before the rest of her. It starts as a numbness, a void where her arm should be. Then, as she shifts slightly in the dream, the blood tries to return. Pins and needles. A sharp, prickling sensation shoots down from her shoulder to her fingertips. It feels like 1,000 tiny ants are marching on her skin. Aelia groans softly. The sensation pulls her out of the flour mill. She surfaces into the dark room. She realizes her arm is trapped. She needs to rescue it. She initiates the rescue maneuver. It requires effort. She has to lift her heavy body. She pushes with her legs. She arches her back. She drags the dead limb out from under her ribs. It feels heavy and foreign, like a piece of wood. She lays it across her chest. She rubs it with her other hand. Rub, trying to encourage the blood to flow. The tingling intensifies. ZZZZT. It is uncomfortable, almost painful. She flexes her fingers in the dark. Open, close, open, close. She imagines the blood rushing back in. Red rivers filling the dry channels. Slowly, the sensation fades. The ants march away. The warmth returns. She sighs. Chua. Crisis resolved. She lies on her back now. The blanket has settled around her again. She stares up at the black ceiling. She feels the emptiness of her stomach. The imaginary fig from the previous hour was not enough. She thinks about cheese, pecorino, hard sheep's cheese. She imagines a wheel of it, yellow rind, crumbly white interior. She imagines cutting a slice. The knife requires force. Slice. She imagines the taste, salty, sharp, rich. She presses the imaginary cheese against the roof of her mouth. It dissolves slowly. She swallows. Gulp. The hunger is a dull ache, but it is a manageable one. Tomorrow, she promises her stomach. Tomorrow we eat. Tonight we sleep. She thinks about the roof of the insula. She imagines the terracotta tiles, rows and rows of curved red tiles, imbrices and teguli. She imagines them overlapping like fish scales. She imagines a raindrop hitting a tile, plink. She imagines the water running down the channel, into the gutter, into the street. She traces the path of the water in her mind. It is a journey of gravity. She likes the tiles. They are baked earth. They protect her from the sky. She feels safe under the scales of the roof. She hears a sound from the stairs outside her door. A creak, creak, then silence, a step, or just the wood settling. Aelia listens. She holds her breath. Is it a thief? She waits for a second sound. Nothing, just the silence. She relaxes. Just wood, she decides. The house is stretching. She imagines the wooden staircase, old oak steps, worn down in the middle by generations of feet. She imagines the ghost of a footstep, walking up, walking down, never arriving. She feels a draft on her nose. The tip of her nose is cold. It is the only part of her that is exposed to the absolute chill of the room. It feels like an ice cube attached to her face. She crinkles her nose, twitch. She tries to warm it up by burying her face in the bolster. She turns her head. She pushes her nose into the feathers. The linen is cool but warmer than the air. She breathes out through her nose. The warm air circulates in the pocket of the pillow. Her nose warms up. She smiles in the dark. A tiny victory against the winter. She thinks about the concept of the circle. The millstone was a circle. The cheese was a circle. The coin is a circle. The sun is a circle. She draws a circle in her mind, a perfect glowing hoop. She traces the edge, round and round, no beginning, no end. She jumps through the hoop in her mind, into the void. She likes circles. They are complete. She curls her body into a circle again, knees to chin, closing the loop. She feels the texture of the mattress under her hip. The straw has compacted. It feels hard. She wiggles her hips. Shimmy, trying to fluff the straw without using her hands. Crunch, rustle, it helps a little. She settles back down. She feels the solidity of the bed frame. Wooden rope, it holds her up. It separates her from the cold floor. She trusts the bed. She drifts back towards the mill, but now the mill is silent. The stone has stopped turning. The air is still full of white dust. She sits on the floor of the mill in her dream. She draws patterns in the flour with her finger, a spiral, a square, a bird. She erases them, swipe. She draws again. It is a canvas that is always fresh. She likes the silence of the stopped mill. It means the work is done. The grain is ground. The bread is waiting. She feels a heaviness in her eyelids. They feel like they are weighted with lead coins. She could not open them if she wanted to. They are glued shut by sleep. She watches the light show on the inside of her eyelids. Purple clouds, drifting, morphing, a green flash, then black. The show is slow and boring. She watches it with passive interest. She hears a sound from the street. A dog howling. No, a wind chime. No, it is a metal bucket hitting stone. Clang far away near the river. Aelia hears it. She incorporates it into her dream. In the flour mill, a metal scoop falls to the floor. Clang. She looks at the scoop in the dream. It vibrates, then it stops. The silence returns. She thinks about her sandals. She left them by the bed. She imagines them sitting there. Leather straps, iron studs, side by side, waiting for her feet. She imagines putting them on, buckling the straps, the cold leather against her skin. The thought makes her shiver. No, she thinks, no sandals yet. Bare feet, warm feet. She rubs her feet together under the blanket. Frot, generating friction, generating heat. She feels a profound sense of waiting. She is waiting for the dawn, but she is in no hurry. She enjoys the waiting room of the night. It is a place where nothing is expected of her. She does not have to be a wife. She does not have to be a Roman. She is just a biological entity, absorbing rest. She swallows again. Her throat is dry. The air in the room is parched. She licks her lips. They feel rough. She dreams of water again. Not a river this time. A cup, a silver cup, condensation on the outside. She holds the cup. She feels the cold metal. She brings it to her lips. She drinks. It is cool wine mixed with water, sweet and refreshing. She drinks the dream wine. It soothes her dream throat. She thinks about the concept of gray, the color of the dawn, the color of the unbleached wool, the color of the stone. She paints her mind gray, a flat, matte gray. It is a restful color, no glare, no contrast, just soft shadow. She wraps herself in the gray. She becomes invisible. She feels a twitch in her thigh muscle, a single sharp spasm. Jerk, it kicks the blanket. She ignores it, just the body discharging tension. She waits for it to happen again. It doesn't. The leg goes limp, dead weight. She listens to her own breathing. It sounds like a bellows. Whoosh. Inhale, out. She imagines the air traveling into her lungs, filling the tiny sacs, oxygenating the blood. It is a miracle she doesn't have to think about. It just happens. She is grateful for the automatic nature of life. Breathe for me, she thinks. I am too tired. She drifts deeper, into the Nile, the place where the flour mill fades, where the hunger fades, where the cold fades. There is only the hum of existence, a low-frequency vibration. She is vibrating with the room. She is vibrating with the city. She is vibrating with the earth. She feels the blanket heavy on her chest. It presses her down, holding her to the earth. She feels safe under the weight, like a seed buried in the soil, waiting for spring. But spring is far away. Now is winter. Now is sleep. She rolls her head to the side. The hair follows. It fans out over the pillow, a black fan. She feels the strands tickle her cheek. She brushes them away with a sleepy hand. Brush. The hand falls back to the mattress. Thump. She is done moving. She is done thinking. She is done. She sinks down, into the gray, into the quiet, into the boring, beautiful, endless night. Aelia sleeps. The night has reached a point of absolute density. The air inside the room feels solidified, as if the darkness has bonded with the nitrogen and oxygen to create a heavy, invisible gelatin. The silence is no longer a passive absence of noise. It is an active force, pressing against the stone walls, plugging the cracks in the shutters, and filling the space between the floorboards. Aelia lies deep within this silence. She has become a master of stillness. Her body is no longer a collection of restless limbs. It is a single, warm entity, wrapped tightly in the red wool cocoon. She has folded herself into a shape that minimizes surface area, knees drawn up, arms crossed, head tucked down. She is a biological fortress, defending her core temperature against the siege of the Roman winter. She is dreaming. The dream of the flour mill has faded, the white dust settling into the gray fog of her unconscious. Now she is dreaming of fiber, rough, strong fiber. She is in a Ristio's yard, a rope maker's walk. It is a long, narrow alley between two brick warehouses. The sun is filtering down in dusty shafts. The air smells strongly of pine tar and resin. A sharp, sticky, clean smell. Aelia is walking backwards. She has a bundle of raw hemp fibers wrapped around her waist. She is spinning them into a yarn. Her hands move in a rhythmic dance. Twist, pull. She walks backward, step by slow step, away from the wheel. The yarn lengthens in front of her, a long, golden-brown snake of twisted hemp. She watches the fibers catch and lock together, friction becoming strength. She walks, step, twist. It is a dream of endless tension. She feels the roughness of the hemp against her fingertips. It is abrasive but satisfying. She feels the sticky resin on her palms. She walks backwards for miles in the dream, making a rope that could tie the moon to the earth. The rhythm is hypnotic. The backward motion is disorienting but peaceful. She is unspooling the world. In the real room, a tiny sound punctures the silence. Scritch, scratch. It comes from the corner near the amphora. It is a mouse, Muse, a small gray tenant of the insula. It is investigating a crumb of bread that missed Aelia's sweep earlier. Scritch, nibble, Aelia stirs. Her ear, pressed against the bolster, acts as a microphone for the floor vibrations. She hears the scratching. It enters her dream. In the rope walk, the sound becomes the friction of the rope dragging on the gravel. Scratch, scratch. She does not wake. Her brain identifies the sound as benign. Mouse, she thinks in the deep drift of sleep. Eat the crumb. Do not wake me. She accepts the mouse. It is another life in the dark, a tiny heartbeat in the stone box. She feels a tightness in her jaw. She has been clenching her teeth in her sleep, concentrating on the dream rope. She realizes the tension. She consciously releases the masseter muscle. Slack, her jaw drops slightly, her lips part. A small puff of warm air escapes. HHH. The tension drains away from her face. Her features smooth out. She looks younger in the dark. The worry lines of the day are erased by the gravity of sleep. She thinks about the concept of resin. The smell from the dream lingers in her mind. She imagines a pine tree. She imagines a cut in the bark, the sap oozing out, golden, sticky. Slow, she watches a drop of sap fall. It takes an hour in her mind. It stretches, a long amber thread. Then, plop, it hits the ground. She likes the sap. It is the blood of the tree. It smells of the forest. It seals things. It makes things waterproof. She wants to be sealed like the rope. Waterproof against the morning. She feels a cold spot on her knee. The blanket has thinned in one area, worn down by years of use. The cold air is penetrating the weave. It feels like a cool coin resting on her kneecap. Aelia frowns slightly. She needs to reinforce the armor. She moves her hand inside the blanket. She finds a fold of wool. She pulls it over the cold spot. Double layer. The cold coin disappears. The warmth is restored. She sighs. Mhem, a sound of victorious comfort. She rolls onto her other side. The movement is heavy and slow. She is a ship rolling in a gentle swell. The straw mattress rustles, crinkle, shhh. She settles on her left side. She tucks her hand under her cheek. This elevates her head slightly. It aligns her spine. She feels the bones of her hand against her face, knuckles against cheekbone, bone on bone. It feels solid. She is her own pillow. She drifts away from the rope walk. The smell of tar fades. She enters a new space, a space of numbers. She thinks about the laundry. She counts the tunics she needs to wash. 1 white tunic, 2 brown tunics, 1 cloak. She visualizes them in a pile. She imagines lifting the wet wool, heavy, dripping, splash. She wrings out the water in her mind. Twist, squeeze, water runs out. It is a boring chore, but doing it in her mind saves her from doing it tomorrow, at least for now. She washes the same tunic 10 times in her sleep. It is clean. It is very clean. She hears the wind outside again. It is a low moan. Ooh, ooh. It is moving through the eaves of the roof. Aelia listens. She imagines the wind is a river of air, flowing over the city, flowing over the tiles. She is at the bottom of the river, safe in her air pocket. She likes the sound of the wind. It makes the inside feel warmer. Contrast creates comfort. She feels a hunger pang, a sharp contraction of the stomach. Gurgle. It is loud in the silence. She ignores it. She visualizes a bowl of porridge, pools, thick gray, steaming, made of emmer wheat. She puts a spoon in it. The spoon stands up by itself. It is thick porridge. She imagines eating a spoonful. Hot, filling, bland. The imaginary food soothes the stomach. The gurgle stops. She thinks about the oil lamp. She imagines it sitting on the table in the dark. Is the oil cold? Yes. Is the wick black? Yes. She imagines the lamp sleeping, waiting for the spark. She feels a solidarity with the lamp. They are both vessels, waiting to be filled with fire, but not now. Now is the time for cold oil. She feels the darkness pressing against her skin. It feels like a heavy blanket. She imagines she is buried in soft earth, like a seed. It is dark underground. It is quiet. She is dormant. She is not dead. She is just waiting for the rain. She rests in the soil of the night. She moves her toes just a wiggle, checking that they are still there. They are warm, they brush against the sheet. Scritch. She spreads her toes wide, then she curls them, a foot fist. Then she relaxes them. The tension flows out of her feet, out into the mattress. She thinks about the concept of the knot in the rope she made in her dream. She visualizes tying a knot, a reef knot, left over right, right over left. She pulls it tight. Tug, it holds. She ties another knot, a bowline. The rabbit comes out of the hole, goes around the tree, and goes back down the hole. She pulls it tight. Tug, she's tying up her thoughts, securing them so they don't float away. She creates a net of knots in her mind, a safety net. She hears a sound from the apartment next door, a bed frame hitting the wall. Thump, thump, rhythmic, then silence. Aelia registers it. She knows what it is. Life continuing, people seeking warmth in each other. She feels a vague, distant affection for the neighbors. Be warm, she thinks, be safe. Then she returns to her own solitude. Her solitude is crowded with dreams. She is not lonely. She feels the texture of the bolster under her ear. It is linen. She imagines the flax plant, blue flowers waving in the wind. She imagines the fibers being combed. She imagines the thread being spun. She imagines the loom weaving the pillowcase. She rests her head on the history of the cloth. It supports her. She swallows a dry click. She moves her tongue. It feels thick. She dreams of a lemon again, squeezing it. The juice runs over her fingers, sour, bright. It cuts through the dust of the night. She drifts deeper, into the Nile. The rope walk is gone. The porridge is gone. There is only the gray fog. She floats in the fog. She is a boat without a rudder, drifting on a silent lake. The water is glass. The sky is gray. There is no horizon. She is perfectly lost and perfectly happy. She breathes out, woo-woo, a long, slow exhale. Her chest sinks, deflating. She waits at the bottom of the breath. The pause, the silence. Then the body takes over. Inhale. Automatic. Unstoppable. Life continues. She thinks about a stone, a smooth, round river stone. She holds it in her hand in the dream. It is cold. It is heavy. It is perfect. She puts the stone in her pocket. She carries the weight. It anchors her to the dream. The night stretches on. The stars move overhead. The constellations rotate. Orion hunts. The bear turns. Aelia sleeps. She is part of the rotation. She is part of the mechanism. Quiet, boring, eternal, asleep. The night is now a solid, immovable object. The passage of time has slowed to a glacial crawl. In the insula, the silence is so profound that it feels like the air itself has crystallized. The darkness is not just a lack of light. It is a heavy, velvet curtain that has been drawn across the world, muffling the senses and slowing the heart. Aelia lies deep within the architecture of her bed. She has become a masterpiece of conservation. Her knees are drawn up, her chin is tucked down, and her arms are folded against her chest. She is a closed circuit of warmth. The red wool blanket, heavy and rough, acts as the roof of her personal cave. Inside, the air is still and humid, smelling of the lavender sachet and the linen of her tunic. She is dreaming. The dream of the rope walk has faded, the smell of resin dissolving into the ether. Now she is dreaming of stones, small, square stones, tesserae. She is kneeling on a hard floor in a grand, empty room. She is a mosaicist. In front of her is a bed of wet, gray cement. Beside her are two piles of stones. One pile is black basalt, the other is white limestone. She is laying a floor. She picks up a black stone. It is cool and smooth, the size of a dice. She presses it into the cement. Squish, it sinks in slightly. She picks up a white stone. She places it next to the black one. Squish. She taps them level with a small wooden hammer. Tap, tap. She is creating a pattern, a simple border. Black, white, black, white. There is no hurry. The cement stays wet forever in the dream. She places another stone, and another. She watches the line grow. It is a dream of perfect order, of geometry. The chaos of the world is reduced to squares of black and white. Pick, place, tap, pick. Place, tap. The sound is rhythmic and dry. She works her way across the room, inch by inch. It is a boring, satisfying progress. She feels the coolness of the stones on her fingertips. She feels the hardness of the floor under her knees. She is building a surface that will last for 1,000 years. In the real room, a sensation travels through her body. A tiny itch on her left earlobe. A stray hair has fallen across it. The nerve endings signal a tickle. Aelia stirs. She does not wake up. She is too deep, but her hand moves automatically. It slides out from the warmth of her armpit. It travels up her neck. It finds the ear. Brush. She sweeps the hair away. The tickle stops. Her hand, now on a mission, decides to stay there. She rests her palm against her cheek. The skin of her face is warm. The skin of her hand is cool. She presses them together. Thermal equilibrium. She likes the feeling of holding her own face. It feels safe. She leaves her hand there, a gentle cup for her sleep. She thinks in the slow, liquid logic of the dreamer about the concept of honey. The jar in the cupboard. She imagines the honey again. But this time she imagines being inside the honey. She is a bee. She is inside the comb. It is hexagonal, 6 perfect walls of wax. It is warm inside. She is surrounded by other bees. They are humming. MMMMMMMMM, a low, collective vibration. She feels the vibration in her chest. She is stuck in the slow, golden liquid. But it is not trapping her. It is holding her. She moves her wings in slow motion. Buzz, buzz, she is suspended in sweetness. She floats in the amber light. It is a sticky, warm, safe dream. She feels a settling in the mattress. The straw beneath her hip compresses further. Creak, crunch, the bed frame adjusts to her weight. Aelia incorporates the sound into her dream. The wax comb cracks slightly, but it holds. She sinks deeper into the honey. She thinks about the laundry she did yesterday, the cold river water, the rough stones. She imagines a wet tunic hanging on a line. She watches it drip, drip, long pause, drip. She watches the water beat at the hem of the fabric. It swells, it grows heavy. Gravity pulls it, it falls. She traces the path of the drop falling to the ground. Splash. She watches the cloth dry. It turns from dark wet gray to light dry white. She watches the wind blow the tunic gently. Flap, flap. It is a ghost dancing on a rope. She finds the image soothing. Clean, dry, done. She hears a sound from the street, a distant rumble. Grrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr up in the real city, or a cartwheel on a distant road. It is a low frequency. Aelia feels it more than hears it. It vibrates in her bones. She accepts the rumble. The city is growling, she thinks. Go back to sleep, city. The rumble fades. Silence returns. She feels a coolness on her exposed wrist. The sleeve of her tunic has pulled back. The air touches the sensitive skin of her inner wrist. It feels like a bracelet of ice. Aelia frowns in her sleep. She rotates her wrist. She tucks it under the blanket. She pushes it deep into the straw mattress, finding a warm pocket. Ah, the ice bracelet melts. She relaxes. She drifts back to the mosaic floor. She has finished the border. Now she is filling in the center. All white stones, a sea of white. She picks, she places, she taps, pick, place, tap. She looks at the white field. It looks like snow. It looks like a cloud. She lays down on the mosaic in her dream. The stones are hard, but she doesn't mind. They are cool. She rests her cheek on the tesserae. She traces the grout lines with her finger, a grid of gray lines. She counts the squares. 1, 2, 3, 4. Row after row. It is a math problem with no answer, just counting. She swallows. Her throat is dry again. She works her tongue against her teeth. She tastes the faint residue of the olive oil from dinner, a ghostly flavor. She sighs. Chua. Her chest rises and falls. The blanket rises and falls, a landscape breathing. She thinks about the concept of the arch, the Roman arch. She visualizes building one, stone by stone, curving upward. She places the wooden scaffolding. She places the voussoirs, the wedge-shaped stones. She reaches the top, the gap in the middle. She holds the keystone, the final stone. She lowers it into place. Thud. It locks the arch together. She removes the scaffolding. The arch stands. It holds its own weight. Gravity holds it together. She walks through the arch in her mind, into the shade. Into the quiet. She feels a heaviness in her legs. They feel like marble columns. She cannot move them. She does not want to move them. They are anchored to the bed. She imagines vines growing over her legs, green ivy, wrapping around her ankles, wrapping around her knees, holding her down. She is part of the garden now. She is a statue in a grotto. Moss grows on her stillness. She hears a bird, just one chirp, cheep. It is a mistake, a bird waking up too early. It realizes its error and falls silent. Aelia hears it. Too early, she thinks. Hush, go back to the nest. She visualizes the bird tucking its head under its wing. She mirrors the action. She tucks her chin down, hiding from the morning. She thinks about the water in the aqueducts, flowing miles and miles away, in the dark stone channels. Is it cold? Yes. Is it moving? Yes. She imagines the water entering the city, flowing into the lead pipes, flowing into the fountains. She is the water. She is flowing through the dark pipe, smooth, fast, silent. She has no shape. She conforms to the pipe. She flows towards the sea. She feels the beat of her heart. Thump, thump. It is the drum of the ship, beating slow time. She counts the beats. 1, 2, 3. It is a slow count. She gets bored of counting. She lets the numbers drift away, like leaves on a river, floating downstream. She drifts deeper, into the Nile. The mosaic fades. The honey fades. There is only the gray fog, thick, cool, damp. She breathes the fog. It fills her lungs. It makes her heavy. She sinks to the bottom of the fog bank. She lies on the floor of the nothingness. It is soft. It supports her perfectly. There is no pressure on her shoulder, no pressure on her hip. She is floating in zero gravity. She moves her lips, a tiny, invisible movement, whispering a word that makes no sound. Sleep, or maybe home, or maybe nothing, just a nerve firing. Her face returns to stillness, a mask of peace. The room waits, the lamp waits, the pitcher waits. The objects are patient companions. They do not judge her for sleeping. They join her. The table sleeps. The chair sleeps. The walls sleep. It is a conspiracy of rest. Aelia breathes out, woo-woo, a long, low whistle of air. She is empty. She is ready to be filled with more silence. She sleeps, and the night, heavy and black, continues its slow watch over Rome. The night has entered the interluneum of the soul, that stretch of time so deep and so quiet that it feels unconnected to either the yesterday that has passed or the tomorrow that has not yet arrived. The insula is a ship drifting in a windless ocean of darkness. The bricks, the mortar, the timber, and the tiles have all settled into a rigid, cold silence. The building is a heavy, sleeping beast, and Aelia is a single cell within its heart. She lies on her right side now. She has migrated to the edge of the mattress, seeking the slightly firmer support of the wooden frame beneath the straw. Her body is a long, heavy line under the red wool blanket. One arm is tucked under the pillow, acting as a wedge to prop up her head. The other rests limp along her hip, rising and falling with the slow tide of her breath. In, out. The rhythm is geological. It is the breathing of a mountain. She is dreaming. The dream of the mosaic and the honey has dissolved. Now she is dreaming of storage. She is walking through a horium, a massive public grain warehouse near the river. The ceiling is high and lost in shadow. The air is thick with the smell of dry wheat and dust. It is a golden, dry smell. Aelia is walking down a long aisle. On either side of her, stacked to the ceiling, are sacks of grain, burlap sacks, hundreds of them, thousands of them. She walks past them, row after row. She reaches out and touches the sacks in the dream. Rough texture, solid mass. She pats a sack, thump. It is a sound of plenty, a sound of security. She checks the seals, leads seals on strings, intact. She walks to the next stack, checks the seal, intact. It is a dream of inventory, a dream of bureaucracy. There are no rats, there are no thieves. There is only the grain sitting there waiting to become bread. She counts the sacks. 100, 101, 102. It is a task that will never be finished, and she is perfectly happy to do it forever. Walking, checking, counting, in the dry, quiet dust of the storehouse. In the real room, the air has become incredibly still. A microscopic event occurs. A spider, suspended in a web in the far corner of the ceiling, decides to move. It climbs 3 inches up its silk thread. It stops. It waits. Aelia does not hear this, of course, but the vibration exists in the room, a tiny ripple in the stillness. Her sleeping mind senses the stillness more than the movement. She feels the lack of wind. She feels the lack of voices. She feels the heavy pressure of the stone walls. She feels a sensation of warmth in her feet. The wool blanket has done its job too well. Her feet are overheating. The blood vessels dilate. The signal travels to her brain. Too hot. Aelia stirs. She performs a thermal regulation maneuver. She extends her left leg. She pushes the heel out from under the bottom edge of the blanket, just the heel and the ankle. They emerge into the cool air of the room. The cold air strikes the hot skin. It is a delicious contrast. The heat radiates away from her ankle, cooling her blood. She leaves her foot there, a radiator vent for the body. She sighs in her sleep. Chua. Equilibrium is restoring. She drifts away from the grain warehouse. The sacks of wheat fade into the shadows. She finds herself in a new dream. She's sitting at a wooden table. In front of her is a wax tablet, a tabula, a wooden frame filled with black beeswax. She holds a stylus, a bronze instrument, sharp at one end, flat at the other. She is writing a list. She presses the sharp end into the wax, scritch. She writes L-E-N-T-I-L-S. The wax curls up in tiny shavings. She writes oil. She writes salt. She looks at the list, then she turns the stylus over. She uses the flat end, the spatula, to smooth the wax. She erases the words, rub, smooth. The wax becomes flat and black again, tabula rasa. She likes the smoothing better than the writing. She writes wool, then she erases it, smooth. She writes day, then she erases it, smooth. She is erasing the world, making it flat, making it black, making it quiet. She smooths the wax over and over until it shines like a dark mirror. She feels a heaviness in her jaw. She allows her mouth to open slightly. Gravity pulls the jawbone down. The tongue rests on the floor of the mouth. The muscles of the face go completely slack. If she were awake, she would look expressionless. But in sleep, this is the face of total peace. No frowning, no smiling, just being. She hears a sound from the street, a very faint, rhythmic clicking. Click, 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 someone walking in wooden sandals, or a loose shutter tapping. It is very slow. Aelia incorporates it into her sleep. It becomes the sound of a loom in the distance, or the sound of a clock she does not own. She counts the clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4. The sound fades away. The silence rushes back in, filling the space like water filling a footprint. She thinks about the concept of the folding linen. She imagines taking a large white sheet. She holds 2 corners. She folds it in half, snap. She smooths it down. She folds it again, quarters. She smooths it, eighths. She folds it until it is a small, neat square. She places it in the chest. She takes another sheet. Fold, smooth, fold, smooth. It is a dream of geometry and order, reducing chaos to squares. She builds a tower of folded linen in her mind. White, clean, stable. She feels a vague sensation in her stomach. Digestion is finished. The body is in maintenance mode. She feels light, hollow but not hungry. She feels like a husk, a shell, floating on the bed. She likes this feeling. To be light is to be free of the day's heavy food. She is clean inside. She rolls onto her back again. The maneuver is slow and clumsy. Her limbs are heavy like logs. She flops over. Whump, the mattress crunches. Her foot, the one that was cooling, gets pulled back under the blanket. It is cold now. She tucks it against her warm calf. Ooh. The cold skin touches the warm skin. She shivers once. Then the warmth wins. She settles. She stares up into the dark void. She thinks about the stars. She cannot see them, but she knows they are there, hanging over the roof. Small, cold fires in the sky. She imagines connecting them with lines, drawing pictures in the sky, a plow, a bear, a sandal. She draws a giant sandal in the stars. It is a silly thought. It makes her mind soft. She lets the stars drift. They rotate slowly, turning the wheel of the night. She feels the texture of her own hair. It has come loose from the braid. Strands of hair are tickling her neck. It feels like a spider web. She reaches up with a heavy hand. She brushes the hair away. Sweep. Her hand feels giant. A paw. She drops her hand back to her side. It hits the mattress with a thud. She is too tired to fix the braid. Let the hair be wild. Let it flow like a dark river over the pillow. She drifts back to the wax tablet. But now the tablet is huge. It is the size of the room. The floor is black wax. She is lying on the wax. She is sinking into it slightly. It molds to her body. It holds her. She feels the smoothness against her back. She imagines that she is being erased. The great spatula comes down. It smooths over her legs. It smooths over her arms. It smooths over her thoughts. She is becoming part of the tablet. Flat, black, peaceful. She listens to the breathing of the house. The insula breathes. It expands in the heat of the day and contracts in the cold of the night. Creak, a timber settles. Tick, a brick cools. Hiss, a draft moves through the hallway. It is a slow, structural respiration. Aelia breathes with the house, in sync. She is a brick in the wall. She is a tile on the roof. She belongs here. She swallows. The throat is moist. She tastes nothing, just the neutrality of the mouth. She moves her tongue. It feels relaxed. She rests. She thinks about the concept of the anchor. An iron anchor, dropping into the sea, splash, it sinks, down through the blue water, down through the dark water. It hits the sand at the bottom, thud, it digs in, it holds the ship, she is the anchor. She is lying at the bottom of the night. Sand covers her, currents flow over her. She does not move, she holds the sleep. She feels a twitch in her finger, the pinky finger of her left hand. Twitch, it jumps, she ignores it. It is just a spark, a last bit of electricity leaving the system. The hand goes still, dead still. She visualizes a wall, a white plaster wall. It is blank, no paintings, no cracks. She stares at the white wall in her mind. It is a screen for her dreams. She waits for an image to appear, but nothing comes, just white. She is happy with the white. It is bright in a soft way and clean. It fills her mind with light, a milky, foggy light. She feels the weight of the blanket on her toes. It feels immense, like a pile of earth. She wiggles her toes against the weight. Resistance training for the sleeper. She pushes up. The blanket pushes down. Gravity wins. She relaxes her feet. They splay out to the sides, the natural angle of rest. She drifts deeper, into the Nile. The grain is counted. The wax is smooth. The linen is folded. There is nothing left to do. The universe is organized. The universe is quiet. Aelia is just a passenger now, riding the earth through the dark. She sleeps, without fear, without hunger, without thought, just sleep. The night has entered the interlunar phase, the dark stretch between the setting of the moon and the rising of the sun. It is the darkest part of the night. The insula is a solid block of shadow, indistinguishable from the black sky above it. The silence is profound. It is not just a lack of noise. It is a heavy, damp blanket that smothers the city. The stones of the street, the bricks of the walls, and the tiles of the roof are all radiating a deep, persistent cold. Aelia lies in the exact center of her bed. She has not moved for 45 minutes. She has become a masterpiece of stillness. Her breathing is so shallow and quiet that if a feather were placed on her lips, it would barely flutter. In, out. She is conserving every atom of energy, every joule of heat. The room around her is a hostile environment of freezing air, but inside the red wool blanket, she is maintaining a fragile, tropical ecosystem. She is dreaming. The dream of the mosaic floor has ended. The black and white stones have stopped clicking. Now she is dreaming of wool, raw wool. She is in a shearing shed. It is dim and smells strongly of lanolin, the greasy, natural oil of sheep. In front of her is a mountain of raw fleece. It is off-white, tangled, and heavy with dirt and straw. She is sorting it. She reaches into the pile with both hands. The wool feels greasy and warm. It coats her fingers in oil. She pulls a chunk free. Tear. It makes a soft, fibrous sound as the strands separate. She examines it. Fine, she decides. She throws it into a basket on her left. Flump. She reaches in again. She pulls another chunk. This one is coarse, scratchy. Rough, she decides. She throws it into a basket on her right. Flump, it is a dream of tactile sensation, the slippery grease, the crimp of the fiber, the smell of the animal. She sorts and sorts. Left, right, left, right. The mountain of fleece never gets smaller. She does not mind. She likes the grease on her hands. It makes her skin feel soft. She likes the rhythm. Pull, check, throw, pull, check, throw. She is buried in the wool, safe, warm, oily. In the real room, the air is stagnant. A tiny spider, suspended in its web in the corner, feels the cold. It pulls its legs in tight, becoming a tiny ball of life waiting for the warmth. Aelia shifts. The dream of the wool has triggered a sensation in her hands. She rubs her thumb across her fingertips. Rub, rub, expecting to feel the grease. But she feels the dry, rough weave of the sheet. The contrast is sharp. Her brain registers dry. She stops rubbing. She relaxes her hand. It lies flat on the mattress, a dry, clean hand. She feels a stiffness in her lower back. The mattress has compressed too much under her hips. The support is gone. She needs to realign her spine. She initiates a slow roll. She pushes with her heels. She arches her back. Crack, a tiny pop in her lumbar vertebrae. She sighs. Ah. She lowers her back. She wiggles her hips slightly to redistribute the straw. Crunch, rustle. She settles back down. The pressure is relieved. She feels taller in the bed. She thinks in the slow, liquid thoughts of the sleeper about the concept of the arch, the Roman arch. She visualizes building one. She sees the wooden scaffolding. She sees the wedge-shaped stones, the voussoirs. She lifts a stone in her mind, heavy, gray. She places it on the wooden frame. She lifts another. She builds up the sides, curving inward. She reaches the top, the gap in the middle. She holds the keystone, the most important stone. She lowers it into place. Thud, it locks the arch together. She removes the scaffolding. The arch stands. It holds its own weight. Gravity holds it together. She finds this immensely satisfying, a structure that works because it is heavy. She walks through the arch in her mind, into the shade, into the quiet. She hears a sound from the street, far away, a heavy door closing. Boom, it is a dull, resonant sound like a drum beat underground. Aelia hears it. It travels through the floor, into the bed legs, into her ear. She incorporates it into her sleep. It becomes the sound of a stone falling in a well, splash, deep water. She watches the ripples in her mind, expanding, fading. The silence returns, healing the wound in the air. She feels a coldness on her ear. The ear facing up is exposed to the room air. It feels like ice. She tries to cover it without moving her arms. She hunches her shoulder up. It touches her ear. Warm flesh meets cold flesh. It helps a little, but not enough. She decides to turn her head. She rolls her head to the other side, burying the cold ear in the bolster. Ah! The linen warms it up instantly. She sighs, HNNNGH. She leaves her other ear exposed. It is a sacrifice. One ear must be cold, so the other can be warm. It is the economy of the bed. She thinks about the concept of honey, not the taste, but the structure, the honeycomb. She imagines the wax cells, perfect hexagons. She traces the shape in her mind, 6 sides, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. She stacks the hexagons, fitting them together perfectly, no gaps. She fills them with gold liquid, slowly pouring the honey. It fills the corners first, then rises. She watches the level go up. It is a slow, viscous dream. She seals the cell with a cap of wax. Pat. Stored energy, stored summer. She feels like a bee, sleeping in the hive, vibrating gently with the colony. She feels a hunger pang, a dull ache in the center of her torso. Her body wants fuel. She ignores it. No, she thinks, sleep is the fuel. She imagines she is a lizard on a rock, absorbing heat from the sun. She doesn't need to eat. She just needs to lie there, absorbing the warmth of the blanket. It works. The hunger fades into a background signal. She feels a draft near her feet. She wiggles her toes, checking the seal of the blanket. It feels tight, but her feet are still cold. The blood has retreated to her core. She rubs her feet together, swish swish, like 2 dry sticks. She tries to start a fire with her feet. Friction, heat. It warms them up slightly. She tucks one foot under the other, sharing the warmth. She holds them there, locked together. She drifts into a new dream. She is in a library, a room full of scrolls. Volumina. They are stacked in cubby holes, hundreds of them. She takes one out. The parchment is old and yellow. She unrolls it. Crinkle. It is blank. She takes another one, unrolls it. Blank. She checks them all, row after row. All blank. She is not disappointed. She is relieved. Nothing to read, she thinks. Nothing to learn. Just paper. She likes the blank scrolls. They are quiet. They do not demand anything. She rolls them back up. Roll, roll. She puts them back. It is a job of pure maintenance, keeping the nothing safe. She feels the darkness pressing against her eyes. It is heavy. She sees a blue circle. It pulses like a jellyfish. Pulse, pulse. It changes color. Blue to purple, purple to black. She watches the jellyfish swim in the dark ocean of her mind. It is slow, graceful. It has nowhere to go. It just pulses. She swallows, a dry clicking sound in her throat, Kalik. She moves her jaw side to side, releasing tension. She opens her mouth slightly, letting the jaw hang loose. Gravity pulls it down. She drools a tiny bit on the pillow. She doesn't care, she is too deep. She thinks about the concept of the line, a straight line drawn in the sand. She walks along the line, one foot in front of the other. It is a balance beam. She focuses on her feet. Left, right, left, right. If she falls into the dark. But she doesn't fall. She is perfectly balanced. She walks the line for miles. It is a boring journey, but it gets her through the night. She feels the texture of the blanket on her chin. It is scratchy wool. It tickles her skin. She rubs her chin against it. Scritch, scritch. It feels good. A rough massage. She does it again. Scritch. She likes the sensation. It reminds her of the rough reality of the world. Softness is a luxury. Scratchiness is real. She embraces the scratch. She hears the wind pick up outside. A gust hits the window. Thump, then a whistle. Wee. It sounds cold. Aelia shivers in her warm bed, sympathetic shivering. She is glad she is not the wind. The wind is homeless. The wind is cold. She is home. She is warm. She snuggles deeper, burrowing into the straw, like a mole, hiding from the sky. She thinks about the river again, the Tiber. She imagines the mud on the banks, slippery, gray. She imagines footprints in the mud, filling with water. She watches the water rise in the footprint, slowly, until the print is gone, erased by the river. She feels like the footprint, being filled by sleep, until she is gone, erased by the night. She drifts deeper, into the Nile. The gray fog is thicker now. It wraps around her. She cannot see her hands in the fog. She cannot see her feet. She is just a point of awareness, floating, spinning gently. She feels safe. The fog is a blanket for the soul. It muffles the sharp edges of the world. She breathes out, woo-woo, a long, slow exhale. Her chest sinks, deflating. She waits at the bottom of the breath. The pause, the silence. Then the body takes over. Inhale. Automatic. Unstoppable. Life continues. She thinks about a stone, a smooth, round river stone, holding it in her hand. It is cold. It is heavy. It is perfect. She puts the stone in her pocket. She carries the weight. It anchors her to the earth. She sleeps with the stone in her mind, a heavy, peaceful thought. The night stretches on. The stars move. The earth turns. Aelia sleeps. She is doing her job, the job of resting, the job of waiting. Quiet, boring, eternal, asleep. The night has advanced into the Gallicinium, the watch of the cock-crow, though the birds themselves are still deep in their slumber, heads tucked under wings, waiting for a sun that feels impossibly distant. The darkness in the insula has changed quality. It is no longer the heavy, suffocating velvet of the middle night. It has become thin, brittle, and intensely cold. The temperature has dropped to its absolute nadir. The stones of the city have radiated their last warmth into the void, and now they sit, gray and freezing, under the winter stars. Aelia lies in the center of this frozen world. She has not moved for an hour. She is a statue of flesh and wool. Her breathing has slowed to a terrifyingly calm rhythm, barely disturbing the air in the room. In, pause, out, pause, she is hibernating. Her heart rate has dropped to the minimum beats per minute required to sustain life. She is a biological engine running on fumes, conserving every spark of heat deep within her core. She is dreaming. The dream of the library and the fleece has dissolved, leaving no trace. Now she is dreaming of wood, brown, twisted winter wood. She's standing in a vineyard on a hillside outside Rome. The vines are dormant. They are gnarled skeletons rising from the cold earth. There are no leaves, no grapes, just the architecture of the plant. Aelia is pruning. She holds a curved iron knife, a falx. She approaches a vine. She examines it. She selects a branch that is dead or growing in the wrong direction. She places the knife. Snip. The wood is hard and dry. It makes a sharp, clean sound as it is cut. The branch falls to the ground. Clatter. She moves to the next one. Snip. Clatter. It is a dream of reduction, of cutting away the unnecessary. The air in the vineyard is cold and misty. She can see her breath in the dream. She works methodically, row after row. She is shaping the future growth of the plant, but she does not care about the future. She only cares about the cut. The feel of the iron handle, the resistance of the wood, the release, snip. She is the gardener of the winter. She is making the world tidy. In the real room, the silence is so pure it rings. A microscopic shift occurs in the oil lamp on the table. The congealed fat settles by a millimeter. Plip, a tiny sound of semi-solid liquid moving. Aelia does not hear it, but she feels the cold air on her nose. The tip of her nose has escaped the sanctuary of the bolster. It is exposed to the room. It feels numb. Aelia's subconscious registers the thermal leak. She decides to fix it. She does not use her hands. They are too warm to move. She uses her neck muscles. She burrows. She pushes her face forward, driving her nose into the feathers of the pillow. The linen case is cool, but warmer than the air. She breathes out through her nose. The warm air circulates in the depression of the pillow. Her nose thaws. She sighs. HHHMMMM, a muffled sound of victory. She thinks in the abstract, wordless way of the deep sleeper about the concept of ash, the ash in the hearth. She visualizes the fire pit. The wood has burned down completely. There are no flames, no red embers, just a pile of soft, gray ash. She imagines touching it. It is silky, fine, cool. She pushes her hand into the ash in her mind. It yields perfectly. It leaves a gray dust on her skin. She imagines the whole room is filled with ash, soft, gray, silent. She is sleeping in a bed of ash. It muffles the world. It absorbs the sound. It absorbs the light. She feels a profound kinship with the ash. It is the ghost of the fire. She is the ghost of the day. She feels a cramp threatening in her calf muscle, the left leg. The muscle fibers begin to short. A tightness builds, tension. Aelia feels it rising from the deep sleep. She knows she must act before it becomes a spasm. She performs a micro-stretch. She flexes her foot. She pushes her heel away from her body. She pulls her toes toward her shin. She holds the tension. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. The muscle surrenders. The knot dissolves. The leg goes limp again. She wiggles her foot once to confirm the victory. Then she abandons the leg. It sinks back into the mattress. She drifts away from the vineyard. The vines fade into the mist. She finds herself standing by a well, a deep, round stone well. She is looking down into it. It is pitch black inside. She holds a small pebble. She drops it. She waits. She waits. She waits. Plip, a tiny, distant splash. It took a long time. The water is very deep. She drops another pebble. She waits. Plip, she likes the delay. The time between the release and the splash is a space of pure anticipation. She drops pebbles for hours in the dream, measuring the depth of the earth. She hears a sound from the street. It is the very first sound of the morning supply chain. Miles away, outside the city gates, the squeak of a heavy cartwheel. E-R-R-R, E-R-R-R. It is a rhythmic, high-pitched complaint of wood on wood. It is faint, almost imaginary. Aelia hears it. Her brain categorizes it. Morning is coming, it whispers. But not yet. The cart is far away. The driver is tired. She incorporates the squeak into her sleep. It becomes the sound of a swing in a garden, back and forth, E-R-R-R. She is swinging gently. The sound is no longer annoying. It is a lullaby. She feels the texture of the sheet under her hip. The straw has compacted into a hard ridge. It is pressing against her pelvic bone. It is a dull discomfort. She needs to redistribute the weight. She initiates a pelvic tilt. She lifts her hips an inch off the mattress. She wiggles, shimmy. The straw rustles and shifts. She lowers her hips. The ridge is gone. The bed is flat again. She exhales. Whoosh. Comfort is a constant maintenance project. She thinks about the concept of the circle, a perfect geometric circle. She draws it in her mind with a piece of charcoal, round, closed. She fills the circle with blue paint, deep Roman blue. She watches the paint dry. It turns matte. She imagines a drop of oil falling into a bowl of water. She watches the oil hit the surface. Bloop. She watches it spread, expanding outward. A shimmering rainbow circle, thinner and thinner, until it covers the whole surface. She feels like the oil. Spreading out over the bed, thin, shimmering, covering everything. She feels a heaviness in her eyelids. They are sealed shut with the glue of sleep. She tries to open them just to test the mechanism. She sends the signal. Open. The eyelids flutter, flicker. They lift a fraction of a millimeter. Light or the lack of it enters. It is too much effort. She cancels the command. Close. The eyelids snap shut. Good, she thinks. Keep the curtains drawn. She thinks about the amphora of wine in the corner. She imagines the wine inside. Dark red, still, cool. She imagines the sediment at the bottom of the jar, the dregs settling, layer by layer. She feels like the sediment. She is settled at the bottom of the room. Gravity has pulled all the heaviness out of her mind and deposited it in her body. She is heavy. She is grounded. She feels a phantom sensation on her finger, the ring finger of her left hand. She feels the weight of a ring that isn't there, or maybe the memory of a ring. She rubs the finger with her thumb. Rub, smooth skin, no ring. She stops rubbing. The hand goes still. It looks like a claw in the dark, relaxed and curled. She drifts deeper, into the Nile, the place where the pruning stops, where the well has no bottom, where the oil covers the ocean. She is floating in a void of gray static. It is a boring place. There is no scenery, no conversation, just the hum of existence. She wraps herself in the static. It feels like wool. It feels like home. She swallows, a loud, wet click in the silence. Gulp. She moves her tongue. It tastes of morning breath, stale and warm. She doesn't care. She is an animal in a den. Hygiene is for the daylight, now is for the warmth. She listens to the silence of the insula. It has a texture. It is grainy like granite. She feels the weight of the building above her. 3 floors of stone and brick. Pressing down, she likes the weight. It holds her in place. If the building were lighter, she might float away. But the insula is heavy, and she is safe under its tonnage. She thinks about a candle, a beeswax candle. She imagines blowing it out. PFFFT. She watches the smoke rise, a thin gray ribbon, curling, dancing, disappearing. She is the smoke. She has no shape. She creates patterns in the air, then she vanishes. She breathes in, the air is freezing. It wakes her sinuses up. She breathes out, the air is hot. It puts her sinuses back to sleep. It is a cycle of waking and sleeping with every breath. In, out, wake, sleep, cold, hot. She moves her toes, a tiny wiggle, just to make sure they are still attached. They are warm, they are happy. She spreads them out, fan-shaped feet. She pushes them against the bottom of the bed, checking the boundaries of her world. The bed is there. The world is finite. This is comforting. She does not want an infinite world. She wants a box, a warm, red, woolly box. She sinks, she drifts, she fades. The vineyard is gone. The well is gone. There is only the rhythm, thump, thump, the heart, whoosh, whoosh, the breath. Aelia is a machine of peace, running perfectly in the dark, waiting for the sun but loving the moon. She sleeps. The night has entered the Antilucanum, the period just before the dawn, though there is no sign of light in the sky. The city of Rome is a tomb of silence, sealed under a dome of cold, black air. The temperature in the insula has reached a critical low. The moisture in the air has frozen, turning into microscopic crystals that glitter invisibly on the stone floor and the iron latch of the door. The building itself seems to have shrunk, contracting inwards against the chill, holding its breath until the sun returns to warm its brick skin. Aelia lies in the dark, a warm, living core in the center of the frozen room. She has wrapped herself so tightly in the red wool blanket that she resembles a chrysalis. Only the top of her head is visible, a dark shape against the lighter dark of the bolster. Her breathing is a slow, steady vapor engine. In, out. The air leaving her lungs is the only thing moving in the room. It rises, cools, and falls, creating a tiny, invisible weather system above the bed. She is dreaming. The dream of the arch and the fleece has faded. Now she is dreaming of mud, but not river mud, Roman mud, concrete, opus cementitium. She is standing in a construction yard. The sky is gray and overcast. In front of her is a large wooden trough. Inside is a mixture of lime, volcanic sand, pozzolana, and water. She is holding a heavy hoe and a sia. She is mixing the mortar. She lifts the hoe. It is heavy. She brings it down. Thwack. It hits the wet gray sludge. She pulls it back. Squelch. The suction of the mud resists her. It makes a wet sucking sound. She lifts. Thwack. She pulls. Squelch. It is a dream of extreme viscosity. The mud is thick. It is heavy. It smells of wet ash and earth. She mixes and mixes, turning the gray pile over, ensuring the lime is fully hydrated. There is no hurry. The wall will not be built today. Today is just for mixing. Lift, thwack, pull, squelch. The rhythm is slow and laborious. She feels the strain in her shoulders in the dream, but she continues, because the mortar must be mixed, because Rome is made of this mud, and she is a builder of Rome in her sleep. In the real room, a sensation travels up her leg, pins and needles. Her left calf has been pressed against the mattress for too long. The blood flow is restricted. The nerves are firing warning shots. Tingle, prickle, burn. Aelia stirs. The sensation invades the dream. The mud in the trough starts to bubble. Fizz, pop, it turns into ants. Thousands of red ants crawling on her legs. She wakes up slightly. She realizes it is not ants. It is her own leg. She groans softly. She needs to move. She flexes her foot. She rotates her ankle. Crack, a dry pop. She rubs her calf with her other foot. Rub, trying to stimulate the circulation. The tingling intensifies, becoming a sharp static noise in her nervous system. Then it fades. Warmth returns. The ants disappear. The mud returns to being mud. She sighs. Chua. She rolls onto her back. The movement is difficult. The blanket is heavy and tangled around her legs. She has to kick to free herself. Kick, rustle, she frees her feet. She rolls, flop, she lies flat. Her arms are splayed out at her sides. She feels like a starfish washed up on a beach. Exposed, open, she pulls her arms in, crossing them over her chest. The mummy position. It feels safer, more contained. She holds her own shoulders with her hands, hugging herself. I am here, she tells her body. I am holding you together. She thinks about the concept of salt. She imagines a salt mine. Underground, white walls, crystal ceilings. She licks the wall in her mind, salty, sharp, burning. She imagines a block of salt. She is carving it with a small knife. Scrape, scrape. White dust falls. She is carving a small horse out of salt. She focuses on the ears, tiny triangles. She focuses on the tail. It is delicate work. If she presses too hard, the salt will shatter. She works gently. Scrape. The sound is quiet and dry. She likes the salt horse. It is clean. It will never rot. It is a permanent thing. She hears a sound from the street, a very distant squeak. A cartwheel needing grease. It is miles away, moving toward the city gates, the first sign of the coming morning traffic. Aelia hears it. It triggers a feeling of dread. Morning, she thinks. No, she rejects the squeak. She pushes it out of her mind. She replaces it with the sound of the ocean. Whoosh. She drowns the cart in imaginary water. The squeak stops. The ocean remains. She feels the texture of the linen sheet under her heels. She rubs her heels against the fabric. Scuff, scuff. The skin on her heels is dry. It makes a rasping sound. She stops. She presses her heels into the mattress, anchoring herself. She feels the solidity of the bed frame. It is good timber. It holds her up. She trusts the bed. She feels a cold spot on her cheek. She has moved her head off the warm spot on the bolster. Her cheek is now touching fresh, cold linen. It wakes her up a little. She considers moving back, but the cold feels refreshing. It tightens the skin. She stays there, letting the cold seep into her face. Cool me down, she thinks. Freeze the thoughts. She thinks about the concept of the knot. She visualizes a rope, a thick hemp rope. She is tying a knot, a figure-8 knot, loop over, loop under, through. She pulls it tight. Tug, it is a strong knot. She ties another one, a square knot, left over right, right over left. Tug, she is tying knots in the darkness, securing the ship, securing the load. She ties 100 knots in her mind. It is a way to bind the anxiety, to tie it up so it cannot move. She looks at her row of knots. They are neat, symmetrical. She is satisfied. She feels a hunger pang. Her stomach contracts. Gurgle. It is a loud, wet sound. She places her hand over her stomach, pressing down. Quiet, she commands. There is no bread, only sleep. She imagines the stomach is a bag. She imagines closing the bag, pulling the drawstring tight. The hunger is trapped inside. It cannot get out. She drifts into a new dream. She is in a vineyard. The vines are bare. Winter vines, twisted brown wood. She is pruning them. She holds a curved knife. Snip. She cuts a branch. The wood is hard. Snip. She cuts another. She is shaping the vine for the spring. It is cold in the vineyard. Mist hangs in the air. She works methodically. Vine by vine, row by row. She likes the sound of the cut. Clean, sharp, final. She is the gardener of the winter, preparing the world for green but enjoying the brown. She feels a heaviness in her eyelids. She tries to open them, just to check the room, but they are glued shut. The sleep gum has sealed them. She gives up. Good, she thinks. Eyes are closed. Curtains are drawn. She watches the light show on the back of her eyelids again. A purple swirl, a green dot, a black hole. She dives into the black hole. She thinks about the concept of the measuring cup. A bronze modius, used for measuring grain. She imagines filling it, pouring wheat in. It reaches the top. She takes a straight stick, a strickle. She scrapes it across the top. Scrape. Leveling the grain. Excess wheat falls to the floor. She likes the leveling, making it flat, making it fair. She imagines her life as a cup. She is leveling it, removing the excess excitement, removing the excess worry, making it flat, making it boring, making it peaceful. She feels the weight of the blanket on her chest. It presses down on her ribs, making it slightly harder to breathe. She has to push against the wool to inhale. Push, inhale, relax, exhale. It is like weight training for the lungs. She likes the resistance. It reminds her that she is alive, that she is strong enough to lift the wool. She hears a sound from the wall, a click, the sound of a brick settling, or a mouse moving a nut. Click, it is sharp. Aelia hears it. Brick, she decides. The house is sitting down. She imagines the house is a giant animal. It is settling into the mud, getting comfortable. She settles with it, sinking deeper into the mattress. She feels a dryness in her throat. She swallows. Gulp. It is loud. She wonders if her husband can hear her swallow across the miles. No, that is silly, but she likes the thought that they are connected by the air. She breathes out, sending her breath to him. Catch this, she thinks. It is a sleep breath. She thinks about the concept of gray, the color of the unbleached wool, the color of the stone, the color of the dawn before the sun. She paints her mind gray, a flat, matte gray. It is a restful color, no brightness, no glare, just soft shadow. She wraps herself in the gray. She becomes invisible, a gray woman in a gray room. She feels a twitch in her finger, her pinky finger. Twitch, it jumps. She ignores it, just a nerve. She focuses on her breathing. In, out. She counts the breaths. 1, 2, 3, 4. She counts to 10. Then she starts again. 1, 2. It is a circle, a loop of numbers, keeping her mind busy so it doesn't think about the day. She drifts deeper, into the Nile, the place where the mixing stops, where the pruning stops, where there is only the hum of existence. She is a vibration in the dark, low frequency, steady. She is the purr of the universe. She feels the cold air on her nose again. It is biting now. The pre-dawn chill is the hardest. She buries her face completely, pulling the blanket over her head. She is in a tent of wool. It is dark. It is red in her mind. It is warm. She breathes the warm air, recycling her own heat. It smells of life. She smiles in the dark, a tiny, secret smile. She has won against the cold. She is safe. She sleeps. The mixing is done. The salt is carved. The knots are tied. There is nothing left to do. Just be quiet, boring, asleep. The night has reached its terminus. We have entered the diliculum, the twilight of the dawn. It is that fragile gray hour when the dominion of the dark begins to fracture, not with a bang, but with a slow, inevitable dilution. The city of Rome, which has lain like a stone beast in the mud for hours, begins to twitch. The silence, once a solid block of granite, is now perforated by the tiny, needle-like sounds of the waking world. In the insula, the cold is absolute. It is the deepest chill of the 24-hour cycle. The heat of yesterday is gone. The heat of today has not yet arrived. The stone walls are frigid. The air inside Aelia's room is motionless, holding a suspension of dust and cold that feels ancient. A thin, transparent skin of ice has formed on the surface of the water in the clay pitcher. It is a fragile lens, waiting to be broken by the first thirsty dip of a cup. Aelia lies in the sanctuary of her bed. She is still curled deep within the red wool blanket, but her position has loosened slightly. The tight, defensive ball of the deep night has uncoiled into a more relaxed posture. Her breathing has shifted. It is no longer the deep, heavy draft of the Gallicinium. It is lighter, faster, rising to meet the surface of consciousness. In, out, she is surfacing from the ocean of sleep. She is dreaming one last dream. The dream of the mud mixing and the salt carving has faded. Now she is dreaming of a kiln, a potter's kiln. She is sitting in front of the brick oven. It is sealed with mud. Inside, she knows there are pots, bowls, amphorae. The fire is burning inside. She can feel the heat radiating through the bricks. It is a gentle baking heat. She is not feeding the fire. The wood has burned down to embers. She is waiting for the cooling. She touches the brick wall of the kiln in the dream. It is warm, rough, red. She leans her back against it. She waits for the pots to be finished. It is a dream of transformation, the soft clay becoming hard stone, the night's rest turning into the day's strength. She sits by the kiln and watches the smoke rise, a thin, white line going up into a blue sky. Peaceful, done. In the real room, the first photon of light enters. It finds a crack in the wooden shutter, an imperfection in the oak. It squeezes through. It strikes the dust motes floating in the air. Suddenly, the invisible becomes visible. A single beam of pale, gray light cuts across the darkness. It looks like a shaft of solid smoke. It illuminates the leg of the table. It illuminates the handle of the pitcher. The world is reforming. The shapes are returning from the void. Aelia stirs. The light does not touch her eyes, but her skin senses the shift in the room's energy. The air feels different, less heavy, more expectant. She rolls onto her back. Rustle, crunch, the straw mattress accepts the movement. She stretches her legs, extending them fully. She points her toes. She reaches her arms up over her head. Her hands emerge from the blanket. They touch the cold air. Shock, but it is a waking shock, a signal. She stretches her spine, arching her back off the mattress. Groan, a long, low sound of muscles waking up. She holds the stretch. 1, 2, 3. She collapses back onto the bed. Flop. She opens her eyes. The eyelids flutter, sticky with sleep. She blinks once, twice. The room is a blur of gray shadows. She sees the beam of light. She watches the dust dancing in it. It is faster now. The heat of the dawn is creating currents. The dust is waking up too. She stares at the ceiling beams. They are emerging from the blackness. Heavy dark lines against the gray plaster. Hello, beams, she thinks vaguely. You are still there. She hears a sound from outside. The sound she's been waiting for and dreading and expecting. Cock-a-doodle-doo, a rooster crowing from a courtyard nearby. It is a ragged, scratchy sound. A young rooster, perhaps. It cuts through the air like a serrated knife. Then silence. Then another rooster answers, farther away. Cock-a-doodle-doo, the call and response of the morning. The network of birds waking the empire. Aelia listens. She does not move. She lets the sound wash over her. It is the bell of the new day. She feels the warmth of the bed one last time. She consciously appreciates it. The pocket of hot air she has maintained all night. It is a luxury. She wiggles her toes in the wool. Goodbye, warmth, she thinks. Thank you for the night. She knows she has to leave it soon, but not this second. She steals another minute, just lying there, watching the gray light turn to pearl. She thinks about the water in the pitcher. She knows she will have to break the ice. She imagines the sound, crack. She imagines the cold water on her face, washing away the sleep. It will be shocking. It will be good. She prepares herself mentally for the cold. She steels her resolve. She is a Roman woman. She can handle cold water. She hears the sound of a cart outside. This one is close. Rumble, clatter, iron wheels on stone, the milk cart, the vegetable cart. It is loud. It says, work. It says, move, Aelia sighs, chua. She accepts the cart. She accepts the work. She sits up slowly. She pushes herself up with her elbows. The blanket falls away from her shoulders. The cold air rushes in. It embraces her torso. She shivers. Brrr. She rubs her arms. Rub. She swings her legs over the side of the bed. She pauses, sitting on the edge. Her white tunic is wrinkled from the night. Her braid is messy, hanging over her shoulder. She looks at her feet, pale against the dark stone floor. She wiggles her toes, hovering above the cold. She thinks about her husband. Is he waking up too? Is he hearing a rooster in a foreign land? Or a trumpet? She hopes he slept well. She hopes he was warm. She sends a thought to him across the dawn. Morning, Lucius. I am awake. The house is safe. She stands up, thud, her feet hit the floor. The cold is instant, sharp. She stands straight. She stretches her arms out. She walks to the window. She unbolts the shutter. Slide. The iron bolt is cold and stiff. She pushes the wood open. Creak. The morning light floods in. It is not bright yet, just a pale, clean, blue-gray light. The prima lux. She looks out at the street. A light mist hangs over the cobblestones. A man is walking a donkey. A woman is sweeping a step. The city is starting again. The great machine is turning over. Aelia breathes in the morning air. It is fresh. It smells of mist and bread baking somewhere. It fills her lungs. It wakes her blood. She turns back to the room. The bed is messy. The straw is depressed where she lay. The blanket is a heap of red wool. The lamp is dead. The night is over. She walks to the table. She picks up the pitcher. She pours water into the bowl. Splash. She begins to wash. The sound of water splashing is the sound of the day beginning. She is no longer Aelia the sleeper. She is Aelia the living. She is ready. The room brightens, the shadows retreat to the corners. The boring, beautiful night is finished, but it will come again. The sun will rise and the sun will set, and Aelia will be there, waiting, working, sleeping, in the quiet heart of Rome.